Chapter 719. A naked body tore open a crack in the cocoon and slowly walked out. Dense lightning swam around his body. This lightning did not come from his origin soul, but from his body. He was Wang Lin. Wang Lin let out a deep breath. He looked down at his body and revealed a strange expression. In the past 60 years, he had absorbed a large amount of thunder and life force to form this new body. This body contained the power of thunder, and it formed a close connection with the thunder in his origin soul. With a thought, Wang Lin's origin soul left his body. It wandered around for a bit before returning to his body. A roar came from Wang Lin's mouth. This roar was thunder. Thunderous rumbles echoed across the world like a heaven-defying roar challenging the heavens. Now that I've been reborn, I can't die. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and his bag of holding flew out from his origin soul. He slapped it, and a white robe appeared on his body. He descended from the sky and sat cross-legged on the ground. His gaze fell on a mountain range that looked like a divine dragon crouching on the ground not far away. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he slapped his bag of holding, and the 1 billion soul flag appeared in his hand. He shook it, and countless soul fragments flew out. If it wasn't for the fact that the thunder from the star had dissipated, these soul fragments wouldn't be able to withstand the thunder. A large amount of soul spells gathered and turned into 3 primary souls that circled the area. After setting up his defenses, Wang Lin carefully spread out his divine sense to make sure it was safe. Then he took a deep breath and carefully pressed his right hand between his eyebrows. A ripple suddenly appeared between his eyebrows, and a crystal bead slowly appeared within the ripple. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His hand formed a seal, and the heaven-defying bead flew out and landed on the mountain formed by Wang Yu's bones. Compared to the giant mountain, the heaven-defying bead was really insignificant. Wang Lin was extremely cautious. The heaven-defying bead was his #1 treasure, and it had appeared in the Luo Tian star system before. He had already spread out his divine sense. If there was any movement, he would immediately take action. This was also why he had to wait until his body was condensed before taking out the heaven-defying bead. Without his body, he wouldn't be able to use his full cultivation. Taking out the heaven-defying bead was too dangerous and unwise. The heaven-defying bead let out bursts of light. Under this light, Wang Yu's bones trembled. The metal or inside turned into golden threads and was absorbed by the heaven-defying bead. This process was extremely slow. Wang Lin didn't know why. Compared to absorbing the water attribute, the closer he got to completion, the slower it became. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out again and again, paying attention to his surroundings. With a thought, the main soul formed by the 4th soul rushed out of the planet and hid outside. As a springboard for Wang Lin's divine sense, Wang Lin used the 4th soul to spread out his divine sense even more. The heaven-defying bead's absorption was very slow. After all, Wang Yu's bones were too big. A few days later, Wang Lin split off a part of his divine sense and took out a few treasures from his bag of holding. These treasures belonged to the greedy wolf. They were Wang Lin's harvest from 60 years ago. The first was the giant rock. Although it was a bit damaged, the celestial aura on it was extremely dense. What was even rarer was that the greedy wolf's divine sense imprint had long disappeared. This was one of the reasons why Wang Lin was so tempted. The dissipation of the divine sense imprint didn't mean that the greedy wolf was dead, but that after nearly 100 years of assimilation, the imprint had been removed by Wang Yu. Placing his right hand on the rock, Wang Lin recalled the scene of the greedy wolf taking out this treasure and extracting the mountain soul. His gaze was calm as his right hand gently rubbed the rock. Only second-step cultivators could master the ability to extract the souls of planets, mountains, and rivers. Wang Lin had a deep impression of this ability. After all, he had personally experienced this mysterious feeling when the scattered demon controlled his body. At this moment, while his right hand was rubbing the rock, Wang Lin's palm suddenly stopped and his eyes revealed a strange light. He slowly raised his right hand, and an ancient aura filled with celestial spiritual energy came from the rock. As Wang Lin raised his right hand, an illusory misty ball appeared between his right hand and the rock. Slowly raising his right hand, Wang Lin's movements were extremely gentle. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at the misty ball in his palm. This small ball gave off an extremely powerful aura. What shocked Wang Lin was the celestial spiritual energy inside. It was perfectly combined, as if a real celestial was using a spell. Although this mountain soul is much weaker than the one used by the greedy wolf, it is still extremely powerful. However, the mountain soul inside is extremely unstable. If I am not careful, not only will I not be able to injure the enemy, but I will also be injured by the mountain soul. Wang Lin took a deep breath and his eyes shined. He knew the reason for all of this. It was naturally because the mountain rock was incomplete, causing the illusory mountain soul within it to be damaged. That was the reason for all of this. Moreover, there were no obstacles when he extracted the soul. It was as if Wang Lin could extract the mountain soul with just a thought. This was what moved Wang Lin. His eyes lit up and he slowly lowered his right hand. He gently pressed it on the rock and the misty ball immediately disappeared. It returned to the rock. Wang Lin's right hand immediately pressed down on the ground. When he raised his hand, it was as if the entire sky trembled. However, this was only what he felt with his divine sense. In reality, the earth didn't move at all. As soon as the ancient aura appeared, it immediately dissipated. It was like a wooden bucket that was thrown into a deep well and scooped up a bucket of well water. But as it rose up, the bottom of the bucket shattered, causing the well water to pour out and return to the well. The person holding the rope and the bucket would naturally feel a force pushing against them. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would fall. Wang Lin was like this at this moment. He couldn't extract the soul, and the moment the ancient aura disappeared, a powerful force came from his body. Popping sounds came from his body, and his face turned pale. It took him a long time to recover. Looking at the rock before him, Wang Lin took a deep breath. The value of this rock was that it allowed him to use the second step of the soul extraction spell. This item is very useful to me. I just don't know how the greedy wolf found it and refined it. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with thought. Although he was enemies with the greedy wolf, deep in his heart, he admired the greedy wolf. Ancient thunder dragon, celestial realm mountain rock, ancient god cauldron, mountain and river painting screen, and that strange crown. In addition, there must be other treasures inside the greedy wolf's bag of holding. This person is really the favorite of the heavens. Wang Lin let out a long sigh. Any one of these treasures would cause a crazy fight. However, what surprised Wang Lin was that no one dared to take them from the greedy wolf. This was something he couldn't understand. He looked at the celestial realm mountain rock with a hint of excitement. This item should be able to be repaired, but I'm afraid I'll need origin energy to do so. Wang Lin looked at it for a long time before putting it into his bag of holding and taking out another item. This item was the mountain and river painting screen. Wang Lin had never heard of the celestial realm mountain and river painting, but some of the older cultivators had heard of it. Among the top 10 celestial realm mountain and river painting, the mountain and river painting was ranked 5th. Rumor had it that the power of this painting was unfathomable. However, its true power wasn't the mountain and river technique on the surface of the painting, but the ink that drew the mountain and river. This ink looked black, but it was actually dark red. It was made from blood, and this blood was the true power of the mountain and river painting. Rumor had it that the blood used to draw the mountain and river painting was the blood of the heavens. However, the heavens were shapeless, so how could there be blood? This had become an eternal mystery. Therefore, this item was also known as the painting of the heavens. What the greedy wolf obtained was naturally not the real painting of the mountain and river painting of the heavens, but a copy that was imprinted on a screen. As for what kind of technique was used to imprint the painting of the mountain and river painting of the heavens on the screen, the greedy wolf couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the screen. This screen was very simple and looked very ordinary. It was as if it was something that a wealthy family would often visit. The image of the mountain and river on it was a bit blurry, but but after looking at it for a long time, it became extremely clear. But now, a crack appeared on the left, as if it was splitting the mountain and river apart. It was extremely uncoordinated. The imprint on it had already collapsed under the ancient god's finger. Wang Lin's right hand pressed on it and left his own imprint. After a moment of silence, he opened his mouth and swallowed. The item turned into a ray of white light and was absorbed into Wang Lin's origin soul. Using the power of thunder and lightning from his origin soul, he began to refine this item. The last treasure was the crown. Wang Lin saw it with his own eyes. Under the finger of the ancient god that Wang Yu transformed into, there wasn't the slightest crack on this treasure. Holding the item in his right hand, Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense, but he didn't find anything strange. It was like the crown of a king in the mortal world, nothing out of the ordinary. However, the 5 beads on it caught Wang Lin's attention. Wang Lin immediately recognized that these 5 beads contained the 5 elemental attributes. These 5 elemental attributes were similar to Suzaku's red butterfly's 5 elemental spirit body, but they were more spiritual. Staring at the crown, Wang Lin pondered for a bit. He picked it up and copied what Greedy Wolf did and put it on his head. At this instant, a mysterious force entered Wang Lin's head. It circled around his body once before returning to him and didn't move again. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange look. He took off the crown and carefully looked at it. His eyes revealed a contemplative look. The force just now wasn't very strong, but it seemed to be searching for something when it moved through my body. In the end, it didn't find it, so it returned. What was it looking for? 5 elemental beads. Searching, Wang Lin's body trembled. His eyes lit up, and he whispered, "Fake 5 elemental spirit body. Red butterfly. Thank you everyone for your votes and support. I'm very touched, really." Here felt a bit guilty. Typing and thinking really couldn't keep up with the speed. In order to write a better article, I needed to prepare for a long time. 3 chapters really couldn't last, so I could only burst out from time to time. I'll try to burst out again this week. The time is set for Sunday. Chapter 720. As Wang Lin pondered, he slapped his bag of holding, and a blue rose appeared in his hand. This rose was tender and beautiful, and its entire body exuded a bright blue light. As soon as it was taken out, the blue light on it spread out gently, giving people the illusion that they were in a trance. At the same time, a cold aura followed the blue light and spread out in all directions. This cold aura contained an indescribable sense of pride. This kind of feeling was hard to describe, and only cultivators who cultivated spells would be able to sense it with their origin souls. If it was a mortal, they would only feel cold all over, as if in that instant the world no longer existed, leaving behind only this rose. However, in Wang Lin's eyes, when he felt this pride, he seemed to see a vague figure appear on the rose. That figure was like a flame, but it was extremely cold and arrogant. Looking at the blue rose, Wang Lin pondered for a bit before placing it under the crown. His eyes were like torches as he stared at the crown. The moment the crown touched the rose, the 5 beads on it released a bright light. There was also a mysterious force that couldn't be seen with the naked eye that flowed out from the crown and along the rose. Under Wang Lin's observation, the blue rose slowly dissipated into specks of blue light that entered the crown. After a long time, the crown released bursts of blue light. The blue light gradually disappeared, and the crown returned to normal. Wang Lin frowned and carefully examined the crown. After a while, he seemed to have understood something. Compared to before, this crown seemed to have a bit more spirit. As Wang Lin looked at it, he could vaguely see a figure dancing with a sword inside. Aside from this, there were no other clues. This item was not damaged by the ancient god's finger, so it is definitely not ordinary. However, I don't know how to use it. The Greedy Wolf once said that he took the souls of 9,999 mortal emperors to barely be able to control this item. Wang Lin pondered. What does the soul of an emperor have to do with a 5-element spirit body? Could it be that the previous owner of this crown was an emperor with a 5-element spirit body? Could it be that this was the only way to use its power? Wang Lin shook his head. He couldn't understand. Also, Wang Lin tried to identify the materials used to make this treasure, but besides the dragon bone flame, he couldn't recognize anything else. This dragon bone flame relied on ancient god Tu Si's memory. It seemed that this item had a long history. After a moment of silence, Wang Lin put away the crown, and his gaze fell on Wang Yu's bone, not far away. As the heaven-defying bead absorbed the Wang Yu's bone that had turned into a mountain range, the metal flame ores in it gradually decreased. Time passed slowly. Wang Lin paid full attention to the heaven-defying bead. During this process, he didn't allow anyone to disturb him. Although this place was remote, he still had to be cautious. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 months, no one came to the Plenilune bone. At this moment, all that was left of the Plenilune bone were the mountain rocks. All of the golden flame ores had disappeared. Wang Lin was originally worried whether the half of Wang Yu's bone could complete the heaven-defying bead. However, the engraving on the heaven-defying bead that represented the metal element had reached its end. In Wang Lin's eyes, the heaven-defying bead's metal element was complete. The pearl flickered with a crystalline light, making it look like it was made of crystal. It gave off a brilliant light, and an ancient aura spread out from it. The 5 elements intertwined on it, causing the bead to rise into the air. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light. He bit the tip of his finger and flicked out a drop of blood with his divine sense imprint. It quickly landed on the heaven-defying bead. As the blood was absorbed, Wang Lin shuddered. It was as if there was an additional object in his primordial spirit. At the same time, a rune filled with an ancient aura appeared in his mind. Looking at the heaven-defying bead in the air, Wang Lin's eyes were filled with decisiveness. He had waited for nearly 1,000 years to complete the 5 elements of the heaven-defying bead. At this moment, he didn't have the usual anticipation. All he had was caution and calmness. This treasure had accompanied him for far too long, but from the beginning until the end, he still had too little understanding of it. What exactly is this heaven-defying bead? Could it really come from the ancient celestial realm, like the woman in the painting said? Wang Lin raised his hand, and his 2 fingers came together. He began to draw the rune that appeared in his mind because the heaven-defying bead was complete. This rune was extremely complex, and the strokes were filled with an ancient aura. As Wang Lin focused, the rune gradually took shape before him. The ancient aura had never been this strong before. Even the ancient aura that the scattered devil gave off when Wang Lin extracted the soul of planet Thousand Illusion couldn't compare to this rune. As this ancient aura spread out, the entire planet was affected. The vitality of the planet was gradually suppressed, and cracks appeared on the ground, turning it into dust. Wang Lin took a deep breath. The moment the rune formed, his hands touched it. The rune slowly floated forward and landed inside the heaven-defying bead. A ray of purple light suddenly came from the heaven-defying bead. The light was so bright that Wang Lin couldn't even open his eyes. The celestial guard immediately gave off the aura of decay, and its body began to disintegrate at a rate visible to the naked eye. Wang Lin was shocked. With a thought, the celestial guard returned to Wang Lin's body and stopped disintegrating. However, the decaying aura still didn't dissipate. Not only the celestial guard, but even the 3 primary souls of Wang Lin's soul flag were the same. If it wasn't for Wang Lin's quick reaction, they would have disintegrated in just a few breaths. The violet light spread out slowly until the entire planet was covered by the violet light. It was as though the planet was wearing a violet robe. At this moment, the aura of decay was so thick that it was at its peak. The entire lightning star seemed to have been cast by some sort of mystic art as it slowly disintegrated under this decaying aura. The purple light didn't stop and continued to spread. It even wrapped around the rocks outside. Some of the rocks immediately collapsed and turned into dust. At this moment, it was as if only Wang Lin and the heaven-defying bead were left in this world. Everything else was a terrifying purple light. This strange scene shocked Wang Lin. Although he had many speculations about the heaven-defying bead, He didn't think there would be such a change after it was complete. The purple light stopped spreading while Wang Lin was still in shock. A majority of the 5 elemental force seemed to have dissipated. More than half of the 1,000 years of collection had been released. Where the heaven-defying bead was located, the purple light was still very dense. Slowly, a purple door appeared between the heavens and earth with a loud rumble. This door was too big. Standing below it, Wang Lin was as insignificant as an ant. Everywhere the purple light spread out, a restriction was formed. Wang Lin's mind was almost taken away just by looking at this restriction. There was no need to even think about studying it. No living creature could enter the forbidden formation. It was as if the area of the purple light had been cut off from the Luo Tian star system by an unimaginable spell. There was only that gigantic door that stood tall between the heavens and the earth. It was endless and boundless. Looking at this door, Wang Lin's mind trembled violently. At the same time, he felt a sense of fear. This kind of emotion was rare for him. Feeling his own fear, Wang Lin's eyes were filled with struggle. His Tao didn't allow him to feel fear, but this fear was instinctive and couldn't be erased. It was as if they were on different levels, a gap that couldn't be crossed. Wang Lin hadn't felt this kind of feeling in a very long time. Even when he faced Wang Yu, he was only shocked, but he didn't feel the trembling of his soul. It was as if he couldn't summon any strength to resist. It was like when he was still immortal and stood at the foot of the Hung Yu Sect's mountain. When he looked up at the majestic cultivation sect, he felt awe from the bottom of his heart. With Wang Lin's cultivation and experience, this kind of feeling had long disappeared. Even when he was fighting against the divine retribution in the demon spirit land, Wang Lin relied on his own Tao and determination to resist it. However, at this moment, no pressure came from this giant door, but his body and mind were shaken. Never yield. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot and his body was trembling. He clenched his teeth and raised his head. He would never lower his head, just like back in the Hung Yu sect, when he climbed the mountain with determination. Even though his body was covered in blood, he still struggled. At this moment, the awe from his soul was like a tide that wanted to drown Wang Lin and make him yield. However, Wang Lin couldn't do it, because what supported him was the souls of Wan Er and Wang Lin inside the heaven-defying bead. He wouldn't allow anyone to hurt these two souls. Heaven-defying bead, it was I who completed you. If the heavens kill people, then I'll destroy the heavens. If you rebel against me, then I'll shatter the heaven-defying bead. Although Wang Lin's voice was trembling, it was filled with an unyielding will as he roared out word by word. The unyielding will triggered the primordial, lightning, dragon-like, primordial spirit in his body. Rumbling thunder and lightning swam wildly through his body, spreading throughout his body that was made of thunder and lightning. The thunder spread out under Wang Lin's feet and formed a ring. At this moment, Wang Lin was like a thunder celestial. He controlled the power of thunder. This thunder contained an unyielding will and Wang Lin's persistent Tao. The earth collapsed, but Wang Lin's body was still struggling. His eyes were bloodshot, and his Tao suppressed the awe from the depths of his soul. He looked at the giant door with an unyielding gaze. The giant door that appeared between the heavens and earth was covered in purple, as if it was something hidden within fog. At this moment, under Wang Lin's gaze, the purple light turned into a giant arm that beckoned toward Wang Lin. With Wang Lin's insight, he immediately saw that this giant arm didn't belong to an ancient god. Chapter 721. The skin of the ancient god was rough, with some fine cracks like talismans. However, the hand formed by the purple light was extremely smooth. Although it was huge, it emitted an ancient aura, as if it was formed by a mystical ability. It made a beckoning gesture toward Wang Lin, like an elder summoning his child. The gesture was gentle, but it continued over and over again. There was no dangerous aura coming from the giant arm, as if it was extremely ordinary. It was only summoning Wang Lin, as if it was going to take him through the gate between heaven and earth. However, Wang Lin's mind was on guard, and all the hair on his body stood up. The scene before him was simply too strange. He could never have imagined that after completing the heaven-defying beads of 5 elements, such a strange thing would happen. Wang Lin didn't move. He stared at the arm that was summoning him with a cold glint in his eyes. The movement of the arm remained the same, silently summoning him. However, as time passed, the gate between heaven and earth behind it gradually became illusory, as if it would disappear at any time. It was as if he wouldn't have the chance to enter if he didn't hurry up. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and took a step forward. His right hand grabbed at the Wang Yu's bone that didn't change at all. Although the Wang Yu's bone didn't have the golden flame or any more, it was still very hard. After all, it was Wang Yu's bone. Grabbing the giant Wang Yu's bone, Wang Lin let out a low roar. He gathered all his celestial force on his arm and threw it into the sky. An ear-piercing whistle echoed as the mountain-like Wang Yu's bone charged toward the giant gate. Wang Yu's bone was about to reach the gate. At this moment, the giant arm that was summoning Wang Lin gently bent and grabbed the bone. Wang Lin gasped, and his eyes filled with astonishment. The arm casually squeezed down, and an enormous aura pulsed out. Wang Yu's bones were crushed from head to toe. With this squeeze, the entire world trembled. Even the planet Wang Lin was on began to crack. Large amounts of rubble began to shatter. Thunderous rumbles came from the rubble outside, and large amounts of rubble began to shatter. It was as if a vacuum had been formed. Even the gravel outside, the purple light restriction, seemed to be affected by some kind of force and continued to collapse. It was as if that pinch contained unimaginable power, as if heaven and earth, as well as the starry sky, could be torn to shreds by that single pinch. The arm slowly loosened and beckoned Wang Lin again. Wang Lin's scalp went numb. His face was pale as he stared at the arm. He didn't know how strong that pinch was, but compared to the ancient god finger formed by Wang Yu's spell, it was definitely not any weaker, because this arm gave Wang Lin a feeling that there was nothing in this world that could resist that pinch. What it pinched wasn't power, but a law that was very similar to the one Wang Lin used when he used the heavenly chop. However, compared to the heavenly chop, it was much, much stronger. After a long time, the giant arm gradually disappeared. However, until it completely disappeared, it still maintained the beckoning gesture. The giant door behind it also disappeared along with the arm. At this moment, the purple light gathered from all directions. In the blink of an eye, it shrank to 1 point. The purple light was dense and slowly dissipated, returning to the appearance of the heaven-defying bead. As if it had released all its power, the bead fell from the sky. Wang Lin hesitated for a bit before his right hand reached out and the bead flew into his palm. It looked very ordinary, just like a normal stone bead. However, there was no longer any power of the 5 elements on it. It was even more complete than when Wang Lin obtained it 1,000 years ago. Wang Lin's divine sense entered it. Li Muin's nascent soul, Wang Ping's, and Qing Yi's souls were still there. Moreover, they seemed to be a bit more agile than before. Li Muin's nascent soul was even more condensed. What is the origin of this heaven-defying bead? Where does that giant door lead to? And the arm outside the door? Wang Lin pondered. It wasn't hard for him to guess that he wasn't the first person to obtain the heaven-defying bead. There must have been others who obtained it and completed the 5 elements of the heaven-defying bead. However, when the gigantic door appeared, these people, whether it was the first time or several times later, all chose to enter in the end. Were these seniors crushed by the arm, or did they really enter the door? Wang Lin frowned. Before the heaven-defying bead was complete, he was very confused about it. However, after it was complete, not only did it not disappear, it became even more confused. Could it be that this door leads to the so-called ancient celestial realm? But if that's the case, why did the arm appear? It looks like it's summoning, but it's actually crushing. What exactly is this heaven-defying bead? Wang Lin frowned even more. He stared at the heaven-defying bead for a long time before placing it between his eyebrows. The heaven-defying bead slowly entered his origin soul and disappeared. Since he couldn't figure it out, Wang Lin didn't think about it anymore. The mystery of this item was obviously the door, but he didn't know what was behind it. The heaven-defying beads, 5 elements are gone. I need to search again. Wang Lin looked around. After what happened just now, this thunder planet had been completely abandoned. There was no longer any value in staying. What a waste of such a treasure. But the place where my origin soul felt comfortable is deep within the layer of rocks. Now that my body has recovered, I might as well go check it out. If there really is more thunder, I can cultivate the thunder origin spell. After making up his mind, Wang Lin's body moved. Like a bolt of thunder, he charged out of this place. More than half of the layer of rocks had disappeared, but Wang Lin didn't stop. He slapped his bag of holding, and the god-slaying war chariot appeared and turned into the thunder beast. As soon as the beast appeared, it let out a roar as if it had been suppressed for countless years. Its huge eyes turned to look at Wang Lin. However, the beast was immediately startled. Its eyes were filled with surprise as it looked at Wang Lin with a confused expression. Wang Lin took a step and sat on the thunder beast's back. He patted its head and smiled. Stop looking. With your spiritual sense, you should be able to sense that something is different ahead. Why aren't you going over? The thunder beast let out a low roar. It didn't know why, but right now, Wang Lin didn't exist at all. Instead, he was a bolt of thunder. The thunder gave it a very familiar feeling, a feeling it hadn't felt in a long time. In particular, when Wang Lin patted its head, it made the thunder beast feel inexplicably comfortable, and it couldn't help but roar. The thunder beast was very fast. As it moved through the rocks, more and more rocks appeared. Some of the rocks even had lightning flickering on them. It was a very strange sight. Whether it was Wang Lin or the thunder beast, neither of them felt uncomfortable in this kind of environment. In fact, they were quite used to it. The thunder beast let out roars of joy. Wang Lin was still thinking about the heaven-defying bead as he sat on the thunder beast's back. He was slightly disappointed. After all, he had spent 1,000 years collecting the heaven-defying bead, and Wang Yu had almost died on this trip. He originally thought that once the heaven-defying bead recognized him as its master, it would possess great abilities that would be of great help to him. However, the truth was too different from his imagination. What exactly is this heaven-defying bead? Wang Lin rubbed his forehead as he pondered. The thunder beast was extremely sensitive to lightning. It moved through the rocks and gradually entered the depths of the rocks. A deep rumble of thunder interrupted Wang Lin's thoughts. His eyes were like lightning as he looked ahead. The comfortable feeling in his origin soul was extremely strong. This is the place. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. The thunder beast passed through a large area of the rocks and suddenly stopped. Its giant eyes were filled with shock. When Wang Lin saw the scene in front of him, he took a deep breath, and his eyes shone brightly. There was no planet in front of him, but an enormous pool of thunder that stretched for countless kilometers. This place was filled with lightning and thunder, as if this world was a true hell of lightning. The lightning planet from before was insignificant compared to this place. Within the boundless pool of thunder, the thunder roared like lightning dragons. The rumbling echoed out in all directions, emitting a strong, violent aura. The thunder beast let out a roar as it stared at the huge pool of lightning. Even it was hesitant. The power of the lightning here was too strong. Even though it was a thunder beast, it still couldn't handle it. Wang Lin's body flickered as he jumped off the thunder beast's back. His eyes were filled with caution. He first released the celestial guard puppet and had it stand guard in the distance. Then he slowly approached the pool of lightning and stopped at its edge. After observing for a moment, he took a step forward. As soon as his foot landed, the lightning spread out and fused into his body. Even Wang Lin felt his body go numb. He took a deep breath and took another step forward. He didn't stop. He took 20 steps before he stopped. By now, his entire body was surrounded by lightning, and his nascent divinity was constantly emitting the might of lightning. This was his limit. Wang Lin slowly sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to do breathing exercises. The thunder beast paced back and forth impatiently. After a while, it tried to take a step forward. After taking a few cautious steps, it immediately sensed the might of the lightning. It lay down on the ground and used the unique method of Thunder Beast to absorb the lightning into its body and slowly refine it. Other than the sound of thunder, there was no other sound. Just like that, man and beast began to cultivate. After Wang Lin gradually adapted to this place, he was shocked. The might of the lightning here had already surpassed the one inside his body. If it wasn't for the fact that his body was made of lightning, it would have been very difficult for him to even stay at the edge. This is the best place to cultivate the Thunder Origin spell. Lightning moved through Wang Lin's eyes, and he began to cultivate the Thunder Origin spell. At this moment, a bolt of lightning flew by in the distance outside the asteroid field. There was a thunder beast inside this bolt of lightning. Although this beast had no horns, there was a bulge on its head. It was obvious that it was growing. The lightning beast wore a set of black armor, causing it to look extremely malevolent. On its back sat a middle-aged man. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his face was expressionless as he charged toward the direction of the layer of shattered rocks. The Thunder Celestial Realm is about to open. This time, I need to absorb more origin energy from the Thunder Prison. He had rested enough. Tomorrow midnight, the real fame was about to begin. Chapter 722. The black-haired man rubbed the big head of the Thunder Beast he was sitting on. His eyes revealed a strange light, and he muttered to himself, I just don't know what kind of treasures and celestial spells will appear in the Thunder Celestial Realm. I fear there will be another fierce battle between the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple. The corner of this person's mouth became gloomy. The Thunder Beast under him was extremely fast as it charged into the distance. Rumor has it that the mysterious heaven-defying bead first appeared in the southern domain of the Luo Tian continent. Due to the appearance of this bead, the power of thunder changed and turned into a thunder hell. It has become a wonderful place to cultivate thunder spells. The man's eyes lit up and he moved even faster. Wang Lin was inside the Thunder Lake, and the chant for the Thunder Origin spell went through his mind. After carefully comprehending it, Wang Lin's hands formed a seal, and he placed them on his knees. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The Thunder Origin spell used a strange method to extract a trace of origin energy from the thunder and fuse it into the body to make it your own origin energy. This kind of spell was very rare, and only second-step cultivators would have it. It was often viewed as a treasure and wouldn't be easily passed on to outsiders. This spell focused on entering the body of thunder. If one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, it would be the same as injuring the body. If one was a bit careless, their soul would be damaged, and in serious cases, they would immediately turn to ashes. However, this spell was very suitable for the current Wang Lin. His origin soul was thunder, and his new body was made of thunder. In the eyes of the Thunder Beast, Wang Lin's entire body was made of thunder. Shortly after, Wang Lin slowly raised his hands. His expression was calm as his arms formed a seal. A large amount of ripples appeared out of nowhere. These ripples were formed by thunder and slowly spread out. That tremble actually contained 9 hand seals, which were unleashed at an incredible speed. It could achieve the same effect as a lightning seal, and the ripples were even more so. As the rumbles echoed, one of the strands of thunder in the Thunder Lake was attracted. It seemed to have found an outlet and immediately rushed over. It turned into a thunder dragon and let out a roar as it tried to devour. However, the moment it touched Wang Lin's body, it dissipated and rushed into Wang Lin's body. The thunder here was extremely strong, far stronger than normal thunder. After entering Wang Lin's body, it immediately roared. Wang Lin didn't move, and his hands moved even faster to activate the Thunder Origin spell. His body was like a giant millstone that continued to rotate. He slowly squeezed the origin energy from the thunder into his body. This process lasted for a long time. The Thunder Origin spell said that the first time using this spell was very difficult. After all, the body had to resist the might of the thunder and absorb origin energy. It would take some time to adapt and adjust. However, Wang Lin didn't need to think that much. His body and origin soul were made of thunder, so even if the thunder entered his body, he would only feel a bit of discomfort, but he wouldn't be injured. At this moment, he was completely focused on squeezing the origin energy, so he naturally ignored the discomfort in his body. After a long time, the thunder that entered his body gradually collapsed. Under the operation of the thunder origin spell, it turned into a trace of impure origin energy. There was too little origin energy. If one didn't look carefully, it would be impossible to notice it. However, Wang Lin felt like he had found a treasure and was very excited. It has to be said that for first-step cultivators, origin energy was an extremely extravagant power. It was the key to reaching the ascendant stage, and one could only obtain a bit of it when they reached the ascendant stage. It was impossible to regenerate it. Converting origin energy from the heavens and earth was the spell of a second-step cultivator. If it weren't for all sorts of coincidences, Wang Lin wouldn't have been able to do this. He suppressed the ecstasy and excitement in his heart and carefully manipulated this trace of impure origin energy toward his origin soul. As long as it was absorbed by his origin soul, it would be compressed again and get rid of the impure origin energy. Although this trace of origin energy would be even smaller, it could still be used by him. At this moment, it was a very critical moment, so Wang Lin didn't dare to be careless. He focused all of his attention on controlling the mixed origin energy into his origin soul. However, just at this moment, a change suddenly occurred. This change caught Wang Lin off guard, and he didn't have time to control it all. The moment the impure origin energy touched his origin soul, it became like a wild horse that had escaped its reins and immediately became violent. It entered his origin soul like crazy, but didn't fuse with it. Instead, it moved like lightning and suddenly arrived between Wang Lin's eyebrows. That was where the heaven-defying bead was. This strand of mixed elemental energy, in an instant, actually blended into the heaven-defying bead. A rumbling sound that the outside world couldn't hear, but Wang Lin could clearly hear echoed inside his body. It was as if he had been hit by a giant mountain. Wang Lin's face instantly turned pale, and his origin soul and body trembled. The heaven-defying bead inside his origin soul didn't wait for Wang Lin to summon it. It automatically came out of his origin soul and floated out from between his eyebrows along with Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin stared at the scene before him, and his mind trembled violently. The heaven-defying bead appeared once again. This time, it floated out of Wang Lin's body. The moment it appeared, the entire thunder lake became chaotic. Countless bolts of thunder turned into thunder dragons and charged out of the thunder lake. This caused a large amount of fluctuations and caused the surrounding rocks to be affected by the thunder. The celestial guard puppet immediately retreated far away so it wouldn't be affected. Even the thunder beast was awakened by the change in the thunder lake. It subconsciously retreated and didn't dare to get close. Wang Lin looked at the heaven-defying bead in the air. The confusion in his eyes became even stronger. Countless thunder dragons flew out from the thunder lake and entered the heaven-defying bead from all directions. This scene was extremely shocking. Wang Lin couldn't take his eyes off it. The heaven-defying bead slowly rotated. Every time it rotated, a large amount of thunder would be absorbed into it. Gradually, a purple light appeared. Wang Lin was too familiar with this scene. The same thing had happened not long ago. The purple light was blinding and suddenly spread out in all directions. The strange restrictive spell appeared once again. At the same time, the giant door appeared in front of Wang Lin once again. All of this was too strange. Wang Lin was shocked. He didn't know that the first time the heaven-defying bead had appeared in the world was here. All the strange changes here were caused by the appearance of the heaven-defying bead countless years ago. At this moment, Wang Lin had come here by accident and happened to bring the heaven-defying bead to the place where it had appeared in the past. However, this wasn't an accident. After Wang Lin's primordial spirit was injured, he had followed the comfortable feeling to this place. Although this place had the characteristics of the thunder dragons, More of it was the heaven-defying bead. The heaven-defying bead was the only one that had fused with Wang Lin's primordial spirit. It didn't have a fixed shape, so it could affect Wang Lin's primordial spirit. That comfortable feeling was actually emitted by the heaven-defying bead. If that was it, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, the 5 elements of the heaven-defying bead hadn't been completed yet. Without the heaven-defying bead that had recognized its master, even if it had brought Wang Lin here, there wouldn't have been any changes. However, the completion of the 5 elements caused the heaven-defying bead to change. When the giant door appeared, it meant that the heaven-defying bead had opened for the first time in Wang Lin's hands. This opening also meant that the bead had recognized its master. As a result, everything went smoothly. Wang Lin once again absorbed the heaven-defying bead into his primordial spirit. After the heaven-defying bead recognized its master, it came to the place where it had first appeared and opened it with the origin energy of the heavens and earth. If any one of the karmic factors were missing, there wouldn't have been this change. Over the countless years of the heaven-defying bead, only Wang Lin had reached this step. The enormous door once again appeared, flickering with violet light. It was as if heaven and earth, as well as everything else in the world, even the surrounding pools of lightning, had turned violet. The thunder and lightning had also turned into purple lightning. The appearance of the door caused a sense of awe to appear in Wang Lin's body. Although he had experienced it once before, his body still trembled. However, his eyes were filled with an unyielding light. As the purple light spread out, the giant arm outside the door appeared once more. But this time it caused Wang Lin's heart to skip a beat. That was because the moment the arm appeared, it immediately caused countless bolts of purple lightning to attack it. Amidst the loud rumbling sounds, countless bolts of lightning wrapped around the giant arm, making it seem as if the arm was being restrained. Wang Lin's eyes were like lightning as he stared at the arm. After pondering for a bit, he clenched his teeth and flew toward the giant door. If the arm hadn't been bound by the lightning, then even if the door appeared again, Wang Lin wouldn't have chosen to enter. However, he had a feeling that if he missed this rare opportunity, then he would never be able to pry into the mysteries of the door. Although his speed was fast, he left himself some room. If the giant arm managed to break free from the lightning, then he would immediately turn tail and flee. Closer, closer, and closer. The arm began to move. However, the lightning on the arm was like a chain that immediately restrained it, causing the arm's movement to slow down. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he increased his speed. He turned into a bolt of lightning that shot toward the giant door. As he neared, the door opened a crack. The moment the crack opened, everything in the world seemed to stop. Wang Lin's body also stopped outside the crack. His eyes widened as his mind seemed to be sucked into the door. What he saw caused Wang Lin's body to tremble violently. It was as if his nascent soul had left his body, and he couldn't feel the existence of his fleshly body. His entire body was in a place with no beginning, no end, and no end. Chapter 723. This is the heaven-defying bead space. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he immediately recognized this place. He was too familiar with this place. The surroundings were filled with chaos, and there were some glowing objects that would occasionally appear and disappear. Under Wang Lin's gaze, the glowing objects immediately began to change. It was as if Wang Lin's gaze was a catalyst. The glowing object he was looking at suddenly began to expand. The speed at which it expanded was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it became infinitely large. Finally, to Wang Lin's astonishment, it turned into a ball of light the size of a planet. A vast aura came from the ball of light. This aura was filled with vitality. This vitality was extremely pure, without any impurities. It was like a newborn baby. Shortly after, pieces of gray dust appeared around the ball of light. It was as if they were being sucked into the ball of light. Soon, the dust gathered together and formed a continent. Some of the dust formed rivers and seas. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a planet. The spiritual energy on this planet was very dense. Aside from the fact that there were no mortals, this planet was no different from a cultivation planet in the outside world. While he was still in shock, the planet suddenly changed and began to degenerate at an even faster speed. It was as if time was flowing backward. In the blink of an eye, it turned back into a glowing object. It became smaller and smaller until it was only faintly discernible. Wang Lin's mind gradually lost consciousness as the glowing object changed. His entire person was immersed in this both familiar and strange space. Time slowly passed as if there was no end. Wang Lin had already forgotten everything. He was in a strange state as he floated in this endless space. Every time he looked into the distance, he would see the strange scene of the glowing object. As he looked at it more and more, Wang Lin slowly felt a mysterious power. This power was everywhere. He subconsciously wanted to find the source of this power. At this moment, he didn't even notice that the scene in front of him was very similar to how he had comprehended the heavenly Tao when he had become immortal, and how he had searched for the cycle of life and death. Subconsciously, he began to search for the source of this power. Time passed, but he didn't care. He didn't stop. It was as if he had become a wandering soul in this illusory world, constantly searching. Wang Lin was searching for Tao. He was searching for the end of Tao. It was as if everything in this world had become the distant past. It was like a shattered void that could no longer cause any ripples in his heart. Those who seek Tao live in the morning and die in the evening. That's enough. Those who seek Tao forget life and death. That's enough. The search has no end. No end. Wang Lin didn't know how many planets of light he had seen turn into and then turn back into the void. Every time, he wanted to catch that trace of Tao. But every time, he didn't succeed. Gradually, he understood that he was getting closer and closer to the trace of Tao. The arrival of Tao only took an instant before it turned into nothingness again. Wang Lin's search for Tao, in his confusion, seemed to have grasped a thread. The mysterious power he was searching for seemed to be an existence that surpassed natural laws. This kind of understanding was very faint but very profound. There was no beginning and no end. He searched and searched. Where his gaze was, it was as if the Tao was there, but when he looked away, the Tao was no longer there. This was a very vague feeling, but it was like flowing water that slowly flowed into Wang Lin's mind. Gradually, he felt like he was about to catch the trace of Tao and find the source of that mysterious power. In this process that he didn't know how many years had passed, he saw a planet. This planet wasn't formed by glowing objects, but was a natural existence. The life force on this planet was very weak, but it was filled with warmth and gentleness. Next to this planet were two slightly smaller planets. They were very close to each other, and they exuded an aura of attachment. As Wang Lin approached, one of the smaller planets immediately stirred. It was filled with joy and a strong sense of adoration. The moment he saw these three planets, Wang Lin was shocked as if he had discovered something. He subconsciously wanted to raise his hand, but he didn't notice at all that in his current state, he didn't have a body at all. However, his hand still appeared. It was as if he could manifest it with just a thought in his mind. His hand gently stroked the air, and faint ripples appeared in the air. Because of these ripples, the three planets immediately dissipated and turned into three rays of light that fused into Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin stopped searching for the Tao. In his daze, he could sense that the Tao was right here. As he stopped moving, his mind slowly calmed down. His entire body unconsciously turned into a glowing object. As time passed, the glowing object he had turned into gradually expanded, absorbing the surrounding dust. A planet appeared. The mountains on this planet were spectacular, the rivers were beautiful, and the land was heavy. Even the sea was as blue as the sky, as if it could contain the heavens and earth. In the northern part of the planet, there was a family with two people living there. One was a man, the other was a woman. Their lives were peaceful, without any disturbances. It was as if they could have anything they wanted, including the countless mortals in the surrounding villages. On this day, in the southern part of the planet, a beam of light pierced through the sky. Within the beam of light was a woman wearing a white robe. She was beautiful and as gentle as water. Her long, black hair floated about her face, and she gently tucked it behind her ear. As she flew, her eyes filled with confusion. She looked down at the land, pursed her lips, and softly said, "Why does this heaven and earth give me such a familiar feeling?" She was silent for a long time. Finally, she shook her head and disappeared like a beam of light. "I want to find the answer." The woman's determined voice echoed in the wind. Time passed slowly, as if it would last forever. Over the course of countless years, this planet gradually changed. The only things that didn't change were three people. Two of them lived peaceful lives, and the last one continued to search for the answer, all the way until the end of the day, when the Tao arrived. The land dissipated, and the planet no longer existed. The three people turned into three sources of light that floated off into the distance within a giant palm. The palm dissipated, and along with it, Wang Lin's will. "Is this the Tao?" Wang Lin's voice echoed throughout the land of nothingness. Everything he had been searching for, the end of it all, was himself. "I'm in a good state today, so I'll write 4 more chapters. Total word count, 11,000. Great fellow Taoists, do you welcome me?" Chapter 724. He himself was Tao. The heavens and earth were made up of countless Taos, and this Tao was him. Wherever he looked, the countless glowing bodies would change. From life to death, from death to life. This was his life and death reincarnation Tao. The cycle of cause and effect. If there was cause and effect, there would naturally be cause. Just like Li Muin's search for answers, just like Wang Ping and Qing Yi's ordinary life. This was his Tao of cause and effect. In a trance, Wang Lin felt like he understood something, but at the same time, he didn't understand anything. This kind of confusion was like a tide that fluctuated in his mind. It became more and more intense until it turned into waves. Under the waves, his mind was shaken. He had awakened. The moment his mind became clear, Wang Lin felt like his origin soul was pushed out by a powerful force. When he opened his eyes, he was still standing outside the giant door between heaven and earth. Nothing changed around him. Thunder was still roaring, and the purple light was still spreading. It was as if everything that had just happened was just a dream that Wang Lin's mind was in a trance before he entered the door. So unreal, yet so real. The door opened a crack, but in his eyes, it slowly closed and disappeared, including the arm that was entangled by the purple lightning. All the purple light shrank and turned into the heaven-defying bead. There was a mysterious change on this bead. The 5 elements engraved on it disappeared and were replaced by yin and yang. Yang was the sun and yin was the moon. They each occupied half of the heaven-defying bead and didn't fuse with each other. It floated toward Wang Lin's forehead and automatically entered. Wang Lin was still standing in the air, motionless. His eyes slowly closed, but the unreal scene was still echoing in his mind. Vaguely, he had an epiphany. As he stood there, it was as if he had once again forgotten the passage of time. The only thing left in his mind was the comprehension that kept reverberating in his mind. Bit by bit, he engraved the truth that he had felt in that unreal dream into his heart. Wang Lin knew that everything in this dream was simply too precious. This level of preciousness was simply a great opportunity. He couldn't tell anyone, couldn't explain it, and didn't dare to say it. He even had a feeling that if it was Tian Yunzi and company, they would give up everything for this opportunity. Even if they had to give up planet Tianyun and all their treasures, Tian Yunzi and company would not hesitate to seek Tao this time. That was because it was very likely that this Tao seeking would open the door to the mysterious third step that they had been searching for tens of thousands of years, the dream they had been dreaming of, and the dream they had been desperately seeking. Those who seek Tao live in the morning and die in the evening. Those who seek Tao forget life and death. Wang Lin didn't know the full value of the heaven-defying bead, but this was just the tip of the iceberg. It was something he would never forget and was extremely shocked. The path of seeking Tao didn't allow his cultivation level to increase, but it allowed his Tao to sublimate. Before, when Wang Lin stood before the giant door, he would feel a sense of awe from the depths of his soul. This was because the level was different. It was like a person looking at an ant. Their state of mind would naturally be different. However, although Wang Lin's state of mind hadn't reached the level of the door, he was still an ant. However, this ant was an ant that had seen the third step. He had seen the third step. With his mind immersed, the lake of thunder below Wang Lin seemed to be attracted by something. The thunderous rumble spread across the area and shook the heavens. At this moment, a ray of thunder came from the layer of rubble. Inside the thunder was the armored thunder beast, and on its back was the black-haired man. His eyes were filled with vigilance as he charged into the depths of the rubble. When he got close to this layer of rubble, he immediately felt that something was wrong. The fluctuations of the thunder were too intense, much different from when he was here before. There was even an unimaginably powerful aura inside this thunder that shocked the black-haired man and made him extremely cautious. He slowly passed through the layer of rubble. He was very familiar with this place. After all, he had come here many times to cultivate the Thunder Origin spell, but this time had never shocked him like this. His speed was very fast. After an unknown amount of time, he got closer and closer to the Thunder Prison. The closer he got, the stronger the feeling of fear became. What is happening up ahead? The black-haired man's expression was gloomy. His cultivation was at the corporeal yang stage and was about to reach the peak of the corporeal yang stage. Then, he could enter the nirvana scryer's stage. With his cultivation level, unless it was a powerful cultivator that had reached the second step, there weren't many things that could make him feel fear. However, at this moment, this feeling became stronger and stronger. After hesitating for a bit, he clenched his teeth and the thunder beast under him charged through the last piece of rubble. He saw the familiar thunder pool before him. With one glance, he saw Wang Lin above the thunder pool. The current Wang Lin was simply too strange in the eyes of the black-haired man. Wang Lin was floating in the air, and lightning was moving around his body. Large amounts of thunder roared out from his body, and his hair moved without any wind. The size of the lightning pool caused the black-haired man to suck in a breath of cold air. The lightning pool before him made him feel as if he had come to the wrong place. Compared to the last time he had come here, the lightning pool had actually shrunk by almost half. It was originally endless, but now it seemed like he could see the end if he looked at it. The appearance of this person was like a stone being thrown into a calm pool of water, creating invisible ripples. Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. This was a pair of indescribable eyes that seemed to contain the heavens and the earth, as well as all the laws of the world. It was as if this gaze could see through the heavens and the earth. It was just like the giant arm that had appeared outside the door. It was shocking, and it made the soul tremble. Anyone who saw this gaze couldn't help but feel the reverence of an ant. These eyes contained the true memories of Wang Lin's dream. At this moment, it was as if he was the heavens, as if he was the earth, as if he was the heavens. This was the aura of the third step. Wang Lin's eyes weren't focused at this moment. They were calm and filled with confusion as he casually glanced at the black-haired man. When this gaze landed on the black-haired man, it was as if countless bolts of lightning were striking him. It was as if he had cultivated the Thunder Origin art and had attracted more lightning than he could handle. His entire body seemed to be fixed in place, and he didn't move at all. At this moment, the only thing left in his world was Wang Lin's gaze. At this moment, there was only this gaze in his life. The thunder rumbled in his ears, but it felt like it was very far away. He could hear it clearly, but he couldn't feel it. He didn't understand what kind of gaze this was, but this gaze contained a mysterious power that far surpassed his imagination. This power tore through his eyes, rushed into his mind, and shook his entire body. Thump, thump, thump. His heartbeat reached its limit, as if it was about to explode. At this moment, all the blood in his body began to circulate like crazy, along with all the origin energy in his body. At this moment, he was extremely shocked. It felt like if he didn't circulate his origin energy, he would collapse under this gaze. What kind of power is this? The black-haired man couldn't move his body at all. The origin energy in his body cycled like crazy. Even if it dissipated, Even if it was wasted, he didn't care. His mouth was dry, and his body was covered in sweat. His clothes were already soaked, but at this moment, he seemed to have gone crazy and couldn't move his gaze away. With his cultivation level, this was the first time he had felt such a terrifying power. Even when he faced the Thunder Celestial Temple Lord, he didn't feel this terrifying. Wang Lin's gaze calmly looked at the black-haired man. Traces of Tao seeking remained in his eyes. He only saw a person. It didn't matter if it was a cultivator or a mortal. It was as if at this moment, the other person was only an ant in his eyes. In the dreamland of seeking the Tao, his gaze was the Tao. Wherever his gaze went, the glowing object would expand and rapidly complete its life. At this moment, his eyes fell on the black-haired man with such a gaze. This person was like the glowing object in the dream. However, he was not slowly expanding. Instead, he was rapidly dissipating from his current state. Layer by layer, it didn't stop. The shock in the black-haired man's eyes had reached its peak. He had never felt so close to death before. When the black-haired man's gaze landed on him, he immediately felt his primordial spirit burning. The origin energy in his body, at this moment, seemed to be out of his control. It immediately turned into a ball of invisible flames. The other person's gaze contained a terrifying power that made it so he couldn't resist at all. It was as if the heavens were telling him to go back. Go back. It was as if he was an ant, and the fear from the depths of his soul spread throughout his body. Not only him, but the thunder beast he was sitting on felt this even more. Its body began to rapidly disintegrate like dust. All of this happened in an instant. The Tao seeking in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The black-haired man's entire body collapsed as he woke up from that terrifying feeling. His body was drenched in sweat, and more than half of the origin energy in his body had dissipated. His origin soul had shrunk by size, and his body was extremely weak. He stared at Wang Lin, and the horror in his eyes occupied his entire mind. Too terrifying. Well, what kind of gaze is this? What cultivation level is this person at? The black-haired man gasped. His body trembled, and his face was pale. He deeply regretted coming here. If he didn't come here, he wouldn't have experienced that terrifying scene just now. He didn't doubt that if the mysterious power in the other person's eyes continued to stare at him for a few more breaths, his body would immediately collapse, and all signs of life would be erased. He wouldn't even be able to escape with his origin soul. The thunder beast beneath him was the same. It stared at Wang Lin with fear in its eyes. With the thunder beast's pride, it wouldn't surrender even if it died. But facing that gaze, it wasn't as simple as death. It was a pressure that came from a higher level. This was the third chapter. There was still one more chapter, asking for monthly votes. Today was a rare fourth chapter. In order to ensure there would be a fourth chapter in the future, he had to give his ears some motivation. Chapter 725. In the eyes of the black-haired man, Wang Lin's image was infinitely larger. The black-haired man even believed that no one in the Luo Tian star system could remain unscathed under that gaze. Even the temple master of the Thunder Celestial Temple couldn't do it. In particular, that gaze was filled with disdain. It was as if the world was nothing more than an ant in his eyes. This feeling caused the black-haired man's body to tremble violently. Even with his arrogant heart, he had never felt a sense of reverence toward the person before him. When the difference in strength wasn't too great, with this person's personality, he would have wanted to resist. However, when he felt that this person was so strong that he couldn't challenge him at all, and no one he had met in his life could compare to him, the only thing that rose in his heart was to submit. Dao Yin, that scene just now, was definitely the legendary Dao Yin. The horror in the black-haired man's eyes was replaced by reverence. His mind trembled and his body trembled. When he thought about the words Dao Yin, he became even more excited and terrified. Mortals had nightmare demons, and cultivators also had Dao Yin. However, this Dao Yin was only a legend. The black-haired man only knew that countless years ago, a person appeared in the Luo Tian star system. This person only used his own power and used a spell to defeat all the second-step cultivators in the Luo Tian star system. Aside from a few people, most of the second step cultivators didn't even have time to use a spell or magical treasure before they lost. That person was very disappointed. He turned around and left. At that time, one of the Luo Tian star system cultivators mustered up the courage to ask the name of the spell. What he got in return was a calm sentence. This spell is called Dao Yan. I didn't create it, but you all know it. The black-haired man took a deep breath and immediately got off the Thunder Beast. He respectfully stood to the side. At this moment, he was no longer under Wang Lin's gaze. He immediately noticed that there was a person sitting on a rock not far away. At first glance, the black-haired man was stunned. He could naturally tell that it was a puppet. Then, he saw the silver-horned lightning beast at the edge of the lightning pool. As soon as he arrived, Wang Lin's gaze fell on him, preventing him from seeing his surroundings. Now that he saw this scene, his face was filled with shock once again. Silver-horned Thunder Beast, illusory puppet. Could he also be an emissary of the Hall of Thunder and Lightning? The black-haired man couldn't believe it. It wasn't that he doubted Wang Lin's identity, but that such a powerful cultivator was a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Before he could think too much, Wang Lin opened his eyes once again. This time, his gaze had returned to normal. Not only was the black-haired man terrified, even Wang Lin was shocked by what had happened. That feeling just now could be the third step. Wang Lin silently pondered. That feeling could only be encountered and not sought. He vaguely felt like he had grasped something, but his cultivation level was too low. This feeling could only exist in his heart, and he couldn't completely understand it. That unreal dream had opened the door to the third step for him. If everyone in the Luo Tian star system and the Alliance star system knew about this, they would go crazy. For people like Tian Yunzi, their greatest pursuit was to reach the third step. For this third step, they were willing to do anything. In their eyes, the third step was untraceable. They didn't know the direction or how to move forward. They wandered in confusion and searched bitterly. However, due to the heaven-defying bead, Wang Lin was able to obtain an unimaginable opportunity from outside the crack. Sometimes, fate is like this. After seeing the Tao of the third step, Wang Lin's future achievements were unpredictable and unimaginable. Junior is a level 2 messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple, Shengong Hu. Greetings, Senior. The black-haired man immediately prostrated on the ground. He used an action that he had only done when he became a disciple to express the fanatical respect in his heart. If an outsider saw this, they would be extremely shocked. It has to be said that Shengong was extremely arrogant and ruthless. Even among the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple, he was a very difficult person to deal with. Many cultivation families didn't want to easily provoke him. Most importantly, this person's talent was amazing. Even the Thunder Celestial Temple Lord said that Shengong's talent could be ranked in the top 30 in the Luo Tian star system. This person hadn't cultivated for long, only 1,000 years. However, in 1,000 years, he had reached the peak of the corporeal yang stage. This kind of terror was even more terrifying than his ruthless nature, because no one knew where his limit was. Perhaps in the next moment, he would truly reach the second step. Wang Lin's body didn't move, and his eyes were calm as he calmly looked at Shengong Hu. Although his cultivation hadn't changed after seeing the Tao of the third step, his mentality had undergone a drastic change. His soul was essentially different. At this moment, even if he stood before Tian Yunzi, he wouldn't feel nervous at all. It was as if a mortal knew and saw the spells of a celestial. Even if he saw a mortal emperor, he would still dare to look up without any fear. Under Wang Lin's gaze, although Shengong, who didn't feel the terror from before, his heart still trembled. The terrifying memory from before had been deeply imprinted in his mind and wouldn't disappear until he died. In truth, this kind of thing was a great opportunity for him. If Tian Yunzi and the others had a choice, they wouldn't hesitate to experience it themselves if they couldn't get the bead. Even the lightning beast beside him lowered its head. There was not the slightest bit of arrogance on its face. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "What is it?" His state of mind was still in that unreal dream, and even his tone was the same. Moreover, although this person was a corporeal yang cultivator, his mind was greatly damaged. His Tao heart was weak, so it was already very difficult for him to display the strength of an illusory Yin cultivator. As for the Thunder Beast, it didn't even dare to raise its head. It was obvious that the scene from before had terrified it. Wang Lin's simple words stunned Shengong Hu. He quickly and respectfully said, "Junior." Before he could finish speaking, Wang Lin waved his right hand and slowly said, "If there is nothing else, then quickly leave." Wang Lin was going to carefully study the change in the heaven-defying bead. The power of this thing was far beyond his imagination. Just opening a crack allowed him to see the Tao of the third step. If it was completely opened, Wang Lin's heart pounded like crazy. He couldn't imagine it. Furthermore, the dream this time had caused his cultivation to show signs of relaxing. He was not far from the peak of the first step of cultivation. Shengong Hu felt that Wang Lin's attitude was very normal. Experts should be like this. He had disturbed Senior's cultivation, so Senior not killing him was already a great kindness. Thinking about that gaze from before, Shengong Hu didn't doubt that Senior had let him go. Otherwise, he would without a doubt be dead. His trembling mind in shock had turned into monstrous fanaticism and reverence. He took a deep breath and respectfully said, "Senior, Junior is Shengong Hu, member of the Shengong family in the southern domain of the Luo Tian continent. I'm a level 2 messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple and a corporeal Yang cultivator. I beg to join Senior." It wasn't that he couldn't see through Wang Lin's cultivation, but that terrifying gaze made him completely ignore it. He even thought that this was a real expert. Even if a real expert hid their cultivation, they had to make it so that it was impossible to see through them, as if they were a real ascendant cultivator. Join? Wang Lin was startled and looked at Shengong Hu. Shengong Hu quickly and respectfully said, "Junior's cultivation is not high enough, so I know I'm not qualified to join Senior. However, Junior is extremely sincere, and there are many cultivation families that want to join Junior. If Senior has any requests, Junior will do his best to satisfy them. Junior also knows that these mortal things are not worthy of Senior's attention. I only hope that Senior can consider Junior's sincerity and allow Junior to join." Wang Lin frowned. After pondering a bit, he shook his head. He couldn't use the spell he just used. He could tell at a glance that this person was an arrogant person. Once Shengong Hu found out about this, it would cause some unnecessary trouble. Shengong Hu saw Wang Lin shake his head and immediately said, "Senior, Junior is sincere. No matter what happens in the future, I won't regret it and won't bother Senior. As long as Senior gives me a few pointers when I break through, Junior is willing to offer my Tao soul and ask Senior to join me for 1,000 years. As he spoke, his hand formed a seal and pressed it against his forehead. A black ball of light floated up from his head. This ball of light contained his domain and Tao intent. In a Luo Tian star system, those who relied on others could choose what they wanted to rely on. However, this Tao soul was the highest standard, and it was also the strictest. Once the Tao soul was controlled by someone, although it wouldn't be a matter of life and death, it could affect one's Tao heart. Offering his Tao soul showed Shengong Hu's sincerity. He was truly frightened by Wang Lin's gaze from before. He had a vague feeling that if he let this opportunity go, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Shengong Hu trusted this feeling a lot. He had made many important decisions in his life because of this strange feeling. At this moment, this feeling was unprecedentedly strong, and it strengthened his belief. Looking at Shengong Hu had offered his Tao soul, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Although he didn't know this Tao soul, he knew what it represented. After pondering for a long time, Wang Lin slowly said, "You won't regret it?" Shengong Hu immediately respectfully said, "Junior definitely won't regret it." Wang Lin no longer wasted time. He waved his hand, and Shengong Hu's Tao soul appeared in his hand. He swallowed it and fused it with his origin soul. After putting away the Tao soul, Wang Lin calmly asked, "Why did you come here?" "The Thunder Celestial Realm is about to open, so Junior plans to use this place to cultivate origin energy." Shengong Hu bitterly smiled. For chapters, one more chapter than yesterday. Fellow cultivators, I have offered my sincerity without reservation. I beg for your sincerity. In addition, today is the weekend, so whether or not the renegade celestial realm can continue for 3 weeks after midnight will depend on you. I said before that I want the renegade celestial realm to stay on the recommendation list for a long time. Please help me achieve it. Finally, I beg for monthly votes. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Secure 5th place. Chapter 726. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he felt Shingongu's Dao soul inside his origin soul. This person's domain was very similar to Ling Tianho's domineering domain, but there were also some differences. Wang Lin didn't understand Shingongu's life, so he couldn't see the whole picture. Wang Lin calmly said, "How long until the Thunder Celestial Realm opens?" Shingongu respectfully said, "In another 10 years, the Thunder Celestial Realm will open. At that time, you can enter with the Thunder Furnace." Wang Lin pondered a bit. He was very interested in the Thunder Celestial Realm. Back in the Rain Celestial Realm, he couldn't absorb celestial jades, but now he had the power to absorb a large amount of celestial jades. If he went to the Thunder Celestial Realm, his cultivation would definitely be complete. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly as he looked at Shingongu. The Celestial Realm is damaged. What is the restriction on the cultivation level of those who enter? Shingongu was startled and hesitated for a moment. It was obvious that he had some speculations because of Wang Lin's words. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he calmly said, "The old man is not someone from the Luo Tian star system." All the distracting thoughts in Shingongu's mind were swept away. He thought of this answer almost at the same time Wang Lin spoke. In his heart, this kind of origin was more in line with Wang Lin's identity. "Senior, my Luo Tian star system's Thunder Celestial Realm isn't too damaged. The restriction on cultivation is peak late stage ascendant. However, with the help of the Thunder Celestial Temple's secret method, some second-step cultivators can enter, provided they don't have the strength of an early-stage Nirvana Scryer cultivator." Wang Lin nodded and asked for more details. The Thunder Celestial Realm was similar to the Rain Celestial Realm. After all, countless years ago, the Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning Celestial Realms were all passages to the ancient Celestial Realm. After understanding the situation, Wang Lin looked at Shingongu, who wanted to say something, but stopped. He calmly said, "Fine, you can stay and cultivate, but don't disturb the old man." Shingongu quickly nodded. His purpose for coming here was to cultivate, but now he was seriously injured and his cultivation had dropped a lot. If he left, it would be very difficult to find a better place to cultivate in just 10 years. Also, just healing his injuries would waste a lot of time. It was very likely that he would only have just recovered when the Thunder Celestial Realm opened in 10 years. Now that he heard Wang Lin agree to let him stay, Shingongu's heart was filled with gratitude. In truth, with his intelligence, he wouldn't be like this. However, his Dao heart had already given up. Subconsciously, Wang Lin's gaze had completely shocked him. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and no longer paid attention to Shingongu. He turned around and walked towards the depths of the thunder pool. At first, Shingongu didn't notice, but shortly after, he let out a sigh. Wang Lin was indeed worthy of being an expert. The thunder in this thunder pool was not ordinary. Even with his cultivation, he could only take 50 steps and couldn't take another half a step. However, now his gaze followed Wang Lin and watched as Wang Lin walked step by step until he was 100 steps away and sat down. Shingongu took a deep breath and the respect in his eyes became even stronger. He was injured, so he carefully took 10 steps before he couldn't take it anymore. He quickly sat down and used the Thunder Origin spell to absorb the thunder into his body to cultivate. His Thunder Beast also cautiously took a few steps forward. Its giant head would occasionally look at Wang Lin, who was 100 steps away, and reveal a deep sense of fear. Based on its instincts as a spirit beast, its fear of Wang Lin's gaze was several times stronger than Shingongu's. That gaze almost caused it to lose its wits. It was as if it had returned to its origin. This was something that had never happened before. Even now, it was still very afraid of Wang Lin. Just as he was about to lie down, a roar came from the distance. Wang Lin's silver-horned thunder beast walked over. When it passed by Shengonghu's thunder beast, it viciously stared at it. Shengonghu's thunder beast immediately retreated a few steps and didn't dare to get close. Its pride had been shattered by Wang Lin's gaze. Otherwise, with its current state, it wouldn't have submitted like this. The silver-horned thunder beast shook its head and walked over proudly. It happily took 10 steps into the thunder pool and lay down to absorb the thunder. In the distance, the celestial guard puppet was sitting on a piece of rock. Its eyes were shining brightly as it occasionally stared at Shengonghu. 100 steps was Wang Lin's current limit, and this was because he had reached the 3rd step. His soul sublimated. Looking at the thunder, he seemed to see some strange changes. These changes were similar to when he used the heavenly chop. Wang Lin walked 100 steps before he couldn't take it anymore. He sat down and began to absorb the thunder into his body. He used the Thunder Origin spell to extract the impure origin energy and refine it. As time passed, large amounts of lightning gathered from all directions like silver snakes and were absorbed into his body. Under the circulation of the Lightning Yuan technique, strands of energy were slowly extracted and fused into his soul, nourishing it. An extremely comfortable feeling slowly filled Wang Lin's body. When Wang Lin reached the ascended stage, he had more origin energy than normal ascended cultivators due to Zhou Yi's ascendant crystal. This meant that his path to the ascendant stage would be very smooth. However, using the heavenly chop, especially during the battle with Thunder Daoist, had consumed too much origin energy, and his cultivation was on the verge of falling. Origin energy was very difficult to replenish for first-step cultivators. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin had a Thunder Origin soul, he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. The origin energy fused with Wang Lin's origin soul and nourished his origin soul. This caused the origin energy that had fused with his origin soul to slowly recover. This process was very slow. Wang Lin's hands formed a seal, and thunder ripples spread out. 10 times the amount of thunder was immediately attracted and entered Wang Lin's body. Even he couldn't help but feel a burst of numbness. Wang Lin took a deep breath and immediately began to refine it. Wang Lin's actions caused a series of explosions that awakened Shengonghu. He took a deep breath and slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Wang Lin in the distance, his pupils shrank. Senior is indeed worthy of being called senior. He dared to attract so much thunder into his body from 100 steps away without changing his expression. If I was in Senior's position and attracted so much thunder, not only would my body have to withstand it, but even my origin soul would have been injured. Shengonghu's eyes became even more fanatical. It looks like I need to work harder. Shengonghu closed his eyes and attracted a bit more thunder into his body. His body trembled, and he quickly began to absorb it. 10 times the amount of thunder entered his body. Wang Lin used the Thunder Origin spell to suppress the thunder, causing the origin energy in his origin soul to recover faster. However, it was still far from a complete recovery. After all, only a sliver of origin energy was absorbed by the Thunder Origin spell. After removing the impurities, there was very little left. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. During these 2 years, Wang Lin hadn't moved at all. However, he had changed from 10 times to 20 times. At this moment, Wang Lin was like a human-shaped piece of metal that had been thrown into a pool of thunder, attracting the surrounding thunder like crazy. As for Shengonghu, he had worked even harder during these 2 years, and his injuries had gradually recovered. During these 2 years, Wang Lin had also observed Shengonghu. This person's cultivation method was also the Thunder Origin spell, but Wang Lin could only absorb a sliver of the same Thunder Origin spell. However, when it entered Shengonghu's body, it was more than 10 times more. As he observed, he gradually found some clues. This had a lot to do with how much origin energy he had. The more origin energy he had, the more it would be converted. It was this characteristic that caused the difference between each realm in the 2nd step of cultivation. During these 2 years, Wang Lin had deeply engraved everything he had experienced in the 3rd step into his heart. He often comprehended it and gained some benefits. On this day, he stood up and the thunder around him crackled as it flowed into the pool of thunder. This change attracted Shengong, Hu's attention. He opened his eyes and looked at Wang Lin. The passion in his eyes hadn't lessened at all, and there was even a hint of anticipation. Wang Lin ignored Shengong Hu and looked into the distance. This pool of thunder was too big. Even though it had shrunk by half because of the heaven-defying bead, just looking at it was still shocking. At this moment, Wang Lin was only at the edge of the pool of thunder. He was too far away from the center of the pool of thunder. The closer the thunder was to the center, the stronger it was, and the more origin energy it contained. It could even be said that the origin energy contained within 100 thunderbolts at the edge couldn't compare to the origin energy contained within one bolt at the center. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin raised his foot and walked forward. His heart was calm and even a hint of caution. However, Shengong Hu, who was not far away, was extremely excited. He stared at Wang Lin and secretly rejoiced. I can finally see some of Senior's spells. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I must watch carefully. Maybe I can comprehend something. His excitement was no less than when he broke through to the illusory Yin realm from the first step of cultivation. In fact, it was several times more intense. The reason why he wanted to cultivate here was not only because it was suitable for healing, but also because he wanted to follow Wang Lin and receive pointers from him. He could even watch Wang Lin's spells from afar. He had waited for 2 years, and now his opportunity had finally come. Without any hesitation, Shengong Hu dispersed the thunder around his body and focused on Wang Lin's every move. He was going to remember everything. Even the armored thunder beast next to him raised its head and looked at Wang Lin in the distance. Its eyes were filled with awe and expectation. Only Wang Lin's silver-horned thunder beast rolled its eyes and didn't even look at Wang Lin. It was as if it was sleeping, lying there and breathing out thunder and lightning. 5th in the monthly votes and 4th in the recommendation votes. This is an unprecedented result. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 727. Only by going deeper and absorbing the thunder can I increase my speed. If I stay at the edge and absorb 10 times the amount of thunder, it might seem like the same thing, but the difference is huge. Wang Lin silently stared at the center of the pool of lightning and took the first step forward. That step landed on the pool of lightning, causing ripples of thunder to spread out. Countless bolts of thunder immediately rumbled toward him. Wang Lin's eyes glowed with electricity. His nascent divinity was like a heart. Although it wasn't beating, the might of thunder was fusing into his body. His fleshly body was formed from thunder, so there was no obstruction in his body at all. The might of thunder from his nascent divinity spread out, creating a series of explosions around him. As the explosions echoed out, Wang Lin took another step forward. A thunder tempest appeared within the pool of lightning. As it howled, massive amounts of thunder descended. It was like a true hell of lightning, preventing any living thing from advancing. The tempest of thunder contained a vast might of thunder. Compared to the might of Wang Lin's nascent divinity, it was like comparing a firefly to the bright moon. This place is very strange, thought Wang Lin. The might of the thunder is too shocking. As soon as his foot landed, a huge boom echoing out in all directions. He didn't stop. He continued forward, taking 10 steps in a row. Each of those 10 steps caused a huge boom that was even louder than the sound of thunder. It was as if the entire world was shaking. Wang Lin moved with incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, he had taken 10 steps, and the sounds seemed to superimpose on each other. Rumbling sounds filled the air, shaking the entire pool of lightning. Huge waves of lightning rose up, and the entire area seemed to be covered by lightning. It was a shocking sight. Wang Lin's foot could no longer take another step. He was still at the edge of the pool of lightning, but his nascent divinity felt as if it couldn't bear it, as if he took another step, his nascent divinity would be injured. My nascent divinity swallowed half an ancient thunder dragon, and my fleshly body is formed from thunder. I'm no different from real thunder, but even so, I have to stop here. The thunder here is simply too powerful. Wang Lin's heart was filled with unwillingness as he stared at the pool of lightning. Not far away, Shen Gonghu frowned, and his eyes were filled with disappointment. The fervor in his eyes dimmed. He looked at Wang Lin and thought, that can't be right. With Senior's cultivation level, how could he stop here? Could it be? His eyes lit up. Even the thunder beast next to him was staring at him intently, and the fear in its eyes had dissipated. The silver-horned thunder beast still didn't move its eyes and continued to cultivate. It was as if it already knew this would happen. As Wang Lin stood there for a long time, the disappointment in Shen Gonghu's eyes became even stronger. He let out a sigh. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to see the powerful spell of the person he had attached himself to, but unfortunately, he didn't see anything. This strong contrast caused his fervent respect for Wang Lin to extinguish quite a bit, and his Tao heart slowly recovered. Although 100 steps is an insurmountable gap for me, once I break through to the early stage of Nirvana Scryer, I could definitely cross 100 steps. However, as a senior, how could he only have this little strength? Shen Gonghu's expression remained calm as he carefully observed with a gloomy gaze. Wang Lin looked at the thunder lake before him. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten everything. Everything around him had disappeared, and the only thing that existed was this thunder lake. It was just like when he saw the heaven-defying bead through the crack outside the heaven and earth gate. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten about his own physical body. All he could see was the countless thunderbolts roaming about in the thunder pool. After an unknown amount of time, when he forgot about time and everything, Wang Lin's body moved. He casually took a step forward. That step was neither hot nor cold, but at the instant his foot landed, a bolt of lightning shot out from the lightning pool, and that bolt of lightning was right under his feet. At this moment, it was as if Wang Lin had stepped on a ray of thunder. Shen Gonghu's originally dim and fervent gaze was startled. He vaguely seemed to understand something, but it was also blurry. The armored thunder beast next to him was also startled. The beast's eyes narrowed as it looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face was expressionless, and his eyes revealed an ethereal gaze. He took another step, and the moment his foot landed, a bolt of thunder appeared. It was as if it was welcoming Wang Lin's step, and it supported his foot. Shortly after, Wang Lin took another step. One step, another step. From start to finish, he was extremely casual. It was as if he wasn't stepping into the Thunder Lake, but into his own backyard. Every time his foot landed, there would be a ray of thunder under his foot. Shen Gonghu's eyes suddenly widened and were filled with terror. He sucked in a breath of cold air, and the fanaticism that had dissipated immediately showed signs of recovering. The disappointment in his heart was raised once more as he stared at Wang Lin. The terror in his eyes became even stronger. From his point of view, one time might be a coincidence, but 2 or 3 times could be explained as coincidence or intentional. But now, with every step Wang Lin took, there would be a ray of thunder coming from the Thunder Lake to support him forward. This was no longer something that could be explained as coincidence or intentional. In his eyes, this was an impossible feat. This had completely surpassed his imagination. At this moment, in his eyes, Wang Lin had become the master of all the thunder in the world. The strange actions of the Thunder Lake were clearly welcoming Wang Lin. Welcoming, that's right, it's welcoming. The shock in Shen Gonghu's eyes became even stronger and spread throughout his body. At this moment, his body was trembling, and an extreme sense of excitement erupted like a storm inside his body. He had waited 2 years to see a mystic ability like this. The armored thunder beast next to him suddenly raised its head. Its eyes were unfocused, and the aura of awe appeared once again. As a thunder beast, its comprehension of thunder far exceeded that of its master. At this moment, it could tell that the Thunder Lake wasn't welcoming Wang Lin, but rather every step that Wang Lin took was landing on the veins of the Thunder Lake. Not far away, the silver-horned thunder beast that had been lying on the ground without moving its eyelids, as if it didn't want to look at Wang Lin, suddenly trembled and stood up. Its huge eyes were filled with unprecedented shock as it stared at Wang Lin. In Wang Lin's eyes, what he saw was no longer the Thunder Lake, nor was it lightning. Instead, it was faintly discernible rays of light. These rays of light occasionally flickered and occasionally disappeared. Every time his feet landed, he would land on those flickering rays of light. There was a feeling of enlightenment in his heart, as if this was the right thing to do. He took one step at a time, forgetting everything else. Shengong, whose body trembled violently, and he didn't blink. He was afraid of missing a single breath of time, and he almost couldn't believe what was happening before him. He saw Wang Lin's footsteps become faster and faster. In the end, he was only an afterimage, but every time he landed, there would always be a flash of Wang Lin. In the end, Wang Lin's body was covered in thunder, and a violent storm of thunder was set off around him. His body was like a lonely boat in the raging waves, firmly and calmly floating through the sea of thunder. Too terrifying. This is a true thunder spell. This is true thunder. The fanaticism in Shengong, whose eyes increased once more. His heart pounded like it was going to jump out of his chest. His fanaticism was several times stronger than it was 2 years ago. His reverence for Wang Lin had reached an unprecedented level. The thunder beast beside him trembled and revealed an even stronger sense of awe. Its feelings were even deeper than Shengong Hu's. To it, Zhao Zhioga was like the ancestor of all thunder. The awe that came from the depths of its soul caused it to completely submit. At this moment, even if Wang Lin asked it to attack Shengong Hu, it would obey without hesitation. The one that was even more shocked was Wang Lin's silver-horned thunder beast. It stared at Wang Lin's figure in a daze. Its heart was filled with disbelief, and it trembled from the inheritance. At this moment, Wang Lin stopped, and the strange scene before him disappeared. This feeling came and went without a trace. The moment Wang Lin's body stopped, he awakened. His eyes were filled with confusion. After a long time, he gradually recovered. What had just happened had given him a deeper understanding of lightning. He knew that all of this had something to do with seeing the third step. Although this sort of enlightenment wasn't very offensive, to him, it was far, far more important than any celestial spell or magical treasure. It was like an ant seeing the world of humans, seeing the majestic city, and seeing all of the inconceivable scenes. When it returned to its cave and saw the changes around it, it would suddenly feel as if its consciousness had overlapped with that of an ant. At this moment, Wang Lin was like this. When he awakened, he found that he was close to the inner part of the Thunder Lake. Although he was still very far from the center, he was no longer just a few steps away from the edge of the Thunder Lake. The thunder around him was several times denser than the edge. Each bolt of thunder contained a large amount of origin energy. Wang Lin sat down and absorbed one bolt. When this bolt of thunder entered his body, it caused Wang Lin's body to tremble. It was as if he had been hit by a powerful aura. His entire body felt numb, and even his origin soul felt like it was submerged in water. Shengong, who withdrew his gaze. At this moment, his respect for Wang Lin had reached a peak. He had gained some enlightenment from what had just happened, and his heart was pounding. Just as he was about to sit down to meditate, he frowned. His eyes became cold as he looked at the layer of rubble in the distance. Shortly after, a ray of purple light closed in. There was a wooden sword inside the purple light, and there was a person standing on the sword. This place is so lively. A mocking voice echoed. Chapter 728. This was a wooden sword that was completely purple and gave off a cold aura. There's also a purple light coming from it, making it look like a ray of sword energy. A purple shadow appeared outside the pool of lightning, and on top of the sword stood a man. This man looked to be in his 30s, and his face was fair without any facial hair. He was slightly handsome, but his pair of phoenix-like eyes gave off an uncoordinated sense of femininity. He was wearing a purple and gold robe that fluttered in the wind. At this moment, his gaze swept past Shengong Hu and landed on Wang Lin, who was sitting in the inner ring of the Thunder Lake. This glance caused his pupils to shrink imperceptibly and all the hairs on his body to stand on end. The moment this person appeared, Shingonghu's expression became gloomy. The thunder beast beside him also stood up and let out a roar. Its eyes were filled with hostility. As for the silver-horned thunder beast, it withdrew its gaze from Wang Lin and glanced at the feminine man. Its eyes were filled with disdain as it lay on the ground and began to play with the thunder beside it. The bolts of thunder were extremely obedient under its control. They moved around its body like small hands scratching an itch for it. Not far away, the celestial guard was still sitting on the boulder. It didn't even look at what was happening. Its duty was to protect its master. If anyone came and threatened its master, it would immediately act. Even if it died, it had to complete the protection imprinted in its soul. However, if it wasn't a threat, then even if that person slaughtered 100,000 people before it, it wouldn't move at all. Shingonghu said, "Zhang Konglai." The feminine man carefully withdrew his gaze from Wang Lin in fear of causing a misunderstanding. In his view, although this person was only at the late stage of ascendant, it was simply too strange for him to be able to enter the inner ring of the Thunder Lake. Either that person had an unimaginably powerful treasure, or he was hiding his true cultivation. He also saw the silver-horned thunder beast and the puppet on the boulder. The suspicion in his heart became even stronger. He must have some kind of treasure. He can't be hiding his cultivation. However, why are there two thunder beasts here? Could this person also be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple? He thought to himself. After all, being in the inner ring of the lightning pool was an extremely terrifying thing in itself. With his peak corporeal yang cultivation, it was impossible for him to enter the inner ring. So, with the Shingong family, Shingonghu, I didn't recognize you before, but your cultivation level has dropped a lot. The feminine man focused his mind and looked at Shingonghu. Shingonghu let out a cold snort in his heart, but his expression remained the same. However, his expression was a bit gloomy as he calmly said, "This is not a place for you to stay. Why haven't you left yet?" Although he was injured and his cultivation hadn't completely recovered, with Wang Lin here, even if the Thunder Celestial Temple Master personally came, he wouldn't dare to speak like this. Shingonghu sneered and didn't explain. He coldly said, "If you don't back down in 3 breaths, then don't even think about leaving." He was already a bit annoyed with this extremely talented person from the Zhan family. If it wasn't for the fact that their strength was similar, he would have already attacked. If this Zhan Konglai didn't know what was good for him and disturbed Senior's cultivation, then even if his cultivation hadn't recovered, as long as Senior looked at Zhan Konglai the same way Senior looked at him, he would be able to make Zhan Konglai collapse. Moreover, this person wasn't a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Although killing him would be a bit troublesome, with Senior here, it wouldn't matter. Zhan Konglia's eyes narrowed, and he immediately retreated. He was a cautious person, and as he retreated, his gaze fell on Wang Lin, who was in the depths of the Thunder Lake. The speculation in his heart became even stronger. Why does this Shingonghu have the confidence to say these words? Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that he is injured. Could it be that he is just putting on an act? If not, then he must have something to rely on. Could it be this junior? Zhan Konglia's thoughts quickly changed. 3 breaths of time is up. Shingonghu grinned and stood up. Thunder immediately moved through his body and popping sounds echoed. He took a step forward and the thunder beast let out a roar as it followed closely. However, when it walked out, it subconsciously looked back at Wang Lin, who was in the depths of the Thunder Lake. Beyond its eyes was without a doubt. The thunder beast's gaze caused Zhan Konglia's heart to tremble. He knew that this was bad. Shingonghu was cunning and knew how to disguise himself, but Zhan Konglai knew that the Thunder Beast was completely different. The information revealed by the Thunder Beast's gaze couldn't be pondered deeply. Once he pondered deeply, he would immediately obtain an answer that would shock Zhan Konglia's heart. With his cautious nature, he retreated without hesitation and tentatively shouted, "Shingonghu, I'm open and above board. If we fight here, it will inevitably affect the cultivation of your Shungong family's juniors. If you want to fight, let's go out and fight outside the asteroid field." His tone was especially focused on the word juniors. There was a flash of coldness in Shingonghu's eyes as he stepped out of the Thunder Lake and sneered. Why go through so much trouble? Here is fine. The more Shengong who acted like this, the more confused Zhang Konglai became. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, so he would rather retreat than attack. It was clear that Shengong whose plan was to force him to attack. When he thought about the Thunder Beast's gaze, an absurd idea appeared in Zhang Konglia's mind. His eyes lit up and his hands formed a seal. Purple lightning appeared in his hands, and the purple wooden sword under his feet gave off a dense sword aura. As it roared, it fused with the purple lightning in his hands and formed a powerful pressure. There was also origin energy contained within this majesty. When he attacked, it was an origin energy spell. It was clear that Zhang Konglai was extremely cautious about this battle. Seeing that the battle was about to begin, Shengong who raised his right hand and pointed at the sky as if he was going to summon heavenly thunder. The Thunder Beast beside him also let out a roar, and countless bolts of thunder condensed around its body. The thunder was connected to each other, making it look extremely shocking. However, just at this moment, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes and calmly said, Shengong Hu, I won't help you in this battle. Consider it a test for you to rely on me. If you fail, I'll return the soul to you. Wang Lin's expression was neutral, but he was secretly distressed. Whether it was Shengong Hu or Zhang Konglai, they were not people he could fight. Once Shengong Hu failed, his situation would not be good. He originally wanted to find a quiet place to cultivate, but he couldn't do it. Now that this troublemaker, Zhang Konglai, had appeared, Wang Lin thought about it and said those words. Shengong Hu's body trembled and the battle intent in his eyes reached its limit. He stared at Zhang Konglai and respectfully replied to Wang Lin, Lord, rest assured, Shengong Hu won't lose. Shengong Hu took a deep breath, then he slapped his bag of holding and took out a bottle of pills. At this moment, Zhang Konglia's expression changed greatly. When Wang Lin spoke, he keenly saw the deep respect in Shengong Hu's eyes. He almost thought he was seeing things. There was also the Thunder Beast. When the person in the inner ring spoke, its body trembled as if it was extremely afraid. In particular, the other person's words revealed that he was going to rely on Zhang Konglai. This caused Zhang Konglia's mind to tremble. If this only made him suspicious, then Shengong Hu's reply shocked Zhang Konglai greatly. All the hairs on his body stood up. Lord, in the All-Heaven star system, this wasn't something that could be easily said. This was especially true for second-step cultivators, so it was very difficult for them to say it. Only after willingly relying on a powerful existence would they call the other party Lord. Zhang Konglai didn't doubt that Shengong Hu was lying because all of this was simply not worth it. Shengong Hu's personality was extremely arrogant. Even if this kind of person died in battle, he wouldn't humiliate his dignity. Moreover, even if the two of them fought, it would be difficult for either of them to die. At most, they would be seriously injured. Even Zhang Konglai himself wouldn't casually call someone exalted lord. This was just to avoid a life and death battle. Combined with his previous speculation, the absurd answer appeared in Zhang Konglia's mind once more. His eyes were filled with horror, as if he still couldn't believe it. Could it be? Could it be that this person didn't rely on a treasure to enter the inner ring of the Thunder Lake, but hid his cultivation? If not, how could this arrogant Shengong Hu rely on him and call him Lord? Zhang Konglai gasped and retreated once more. His mind quickly turned, and he immediately said, Brother Shengong, don't be impulsive. A cold light flickered in Shengong Hu's eyes as he crushed the pill bottle in his hand. There was only a single red pill inside, and he swallowed it. His aura suddenly became berserk at this moment. Zhang Konglai, fight me. With a roar, Shengong Hu's right hand pointed at the sky, and the origin energy in his body rushed out like crazy. In an instant, a dragon-like bolt of lightning descended from the endless void. This caused the Thunder Lake to fluctuate, and countless bolts of lightning gathered toward Shengong Hu. When Wang Lin looked at Shengong Hu's origin energy spell, his eyes revealed a mysterious light. This spell was very powerful. It used one's own origin energy to summon heavenly thunder. It wasn't any weaker than forming a furnace with origin energy. Although it wasn't as grand as the Origin Energy Cauldron, it was even more powerful. Jean Collia's expression changed, and he retreated once more. At the same time, his feet moved, and the wooden sword flew into the air. He pointed with his right hand, and the sword flashed. Purple light spread out, and a violent rumble echoed. Shengong, whose eyes were filled with battle intent. He was going to display all of his strength in this battle, because his senior was watching. Tomorrow was the Dragon Boat Festival. Since it was a festival, there was no reason not to erupt. Chapter 729. He let out a roar, and his right hand trembled slightly. After all, he was seriously injured. Although he had recovered slightly and was suppressed by the Thunder Celestial Temple's pills, allowing him to return to his peak in a short period of time, it was still not enough to use this lightning spell. Roaring, he clenched his jaw and waved his right hand. Instantly, the descending bolt of lightning transformed into an unimaginable heavenly might that descended upon Meng Hao. Jean Collia's expression was gloomy, and his hands quickly formed seals. He spat out a mouthful of Origin energy that landed on the wooden sword. The sword immediately howled and gave off a dense sword energy as it charged at the divine retribution. When they slammed into each other, a shocking boom echoed out. The lightning collapsed, and the wooden sword retreated. The residual Origin power in the area was now incredibly dense. Popping sounds could be heard as the rocks in the area shattered into pieces. Jean Collia's body trembled, and he continued to retreat. His face was pale as he gloomily stared at Shengong Hu. He was also angered, and the battle intent in his eyes was ignited. Shengong Hu also retreated until he stepped into the Thunder Lake. A trace of blood came out from the corner of his mouth as he stared at Jean Conglai and laughed. "I've long disliked a feminine fellow like you. I didn't expect you to actually have some skill in today's battle." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had seen the battle just now. The battle between corporeal yang cultivators gave him a bit of insight. He couldn't block any of their Origin energy spells. However, he saw some problems. Shengong Hu's Origin energy spell didn't seem to be perfect. The power of the divine retribution, lightning, should have been stronger. After all, Wang Lin had seen the third step. When he stepped into the inner part of the Thunder Lake, he vaguely saw the law of thunder. It wasn't strange for him to see the problem with Shengong Hu's thunder spell. This kind of phenomenon would also occur in the martial arts world of the mortal world. It was like a person who did not know martial arts at all. Because he had read many secret manuals, he had a deep understanding of martial arts. Therefore, from the perspective of a bystander, he would often be able to point out the problem of his opponent's moves. Even though he was able to see through it and provide pointers, he had yet to reach that level, so he was unable to use it himself. At this moment, Wang Lin was in this state. His eyes lit up, and he calmly said, "Shengong Hu, your Origin Force spell contains the might of thunder, but it doesn't have the soul of thunder. Although your Tao heart has fused with it, it isn't enough. Your faith doesn't have the power of thunder." Shengong Hu was shocked. This wasn't the first time he had heard this. The head of the Thunder Celestial Temple had said this to his family elders as well. However, hearing it from Wang Lin made him even more nervous. He respectfully said, "Please teach me, my lord." Not to mention him, even Jean Conglai in the distance was startled. He was leaning more and more towards the absurd speculation in his heart. Shengong Hu's problem also existed on him. The elders of the Zhan family only said that one had to comprehend it on their own. This kind of thing was really hard to explain. Even they were still trying to figure it out and didn't know if what they comprehended was right or wrong. How could they teach their juniors? If it was right, it would be fine, but if it was wrong... After all, no one knew if their path was right or wrong from the true Tao. This was because they didn't know where the third step was. However, Wang Lin was different. He had seen the third step, which meant he had seen the way forward. Others didn't dare to say it, because they didn't know if it was right or wrong. Even if they did say it, they weren't sure. However, Wang Lin wasn't the same. He knew that what he said was right. The scene at this moment was very strange. Shengong Hu and Jean Conglai were still filled with battle intent. But the next moment, they both gave up fighting and looked at Wang Lin. Their gazes were different. Shengong, whose gaze was filled with blind respect, while Jean Conlier's gaze was filled with doubt. Wang Lin didn't continue to speak. This kind of thing couldn't be explained too clearly. If one understood, then they understood. If one didn't understand, then they would need a chance. Otherwise, they would never understand. While pondering, Wang Lin raised his right hand and casually squeezed. A ray of thunder flew into his palm. The power of this thunder wasn't strong in the eyes of Shengong, Hu, and Zhang Konglai. However, what happened next caused the two of them to gasp. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the thunder in his palm, and his eyes revealed a strange light. He shook his right hand, and the thunder immediately dissipated, leaving behind only a faintly discernible light. This light couldn't last for too long. In just an instant, this light collapsed and dissipated. Wang Lin closed his eyes to hide the fatigue in them. If it wasn't for the fact that this was too dangerous, he wouldn't have pretended to be mysterious. With his eyes closed, Wang Lin slowly said, "Do you understand? Source. Return to the source." Shengong, whose eyes shined brightly and his body trembled with excitement. He didn't hesitate to bow at Wang Lin. The respect in his eyes became even stronger, almost reaching worship. His mind suddenly became clear, as if a layer of paper had been pierced. At this moment, Shengong, who felt like he had obtained Tao, he suddenly turned around and looked at Zhang Konglai. His eyes shined brightly, and he slowly said, "You and I, let's fight again." At this moment, Zhang Konglai's scalp felt numb. His speculation about Wang Lin had reached its peak, and he no longer doubted the absurd idea in his mind. He took a few steps back and bowed at Wang Lin. He respectfully said, "Junior's name is Zhang Konglai. I didn't know Senior was comprehending here. I hope Senior can forgive me for my previous offense. Junior will leave now." He looked at Shengong, who with envy. At this moment, he understood why Shengong, who would rely on someone else with his arrogance. Jean Conlier's tone was a bit sour as he clasped his hands and said, "Congratulations, brother Shengong." Shengong, who didn't speak and coldly looked at Zhang Konglai. Zhang Konglai didn't mind and smiled. "Brother Shengong, I have already received the summon from the Thunder Celestial Temple. In the future, you and I will both be messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Goodbye." He bowed at Wang Lin again before turning around and leaving. Shengong, who didn't stop him, but his eyes became cold. Wang Lin calmly asked, "What is the summons?" Shengong, who quickly turned around and respectfully said, "The summons is a summons from the Thunder Celestial Temple. Any candidate that is chosen as a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple will receive a summons. 3 months before the Thunder Celestial Temple opens, the Thunder Celestial Temple will reorganize the messengers. If there is a shortage, there will be a competition among the candidates. With Jean Conlier's cultivation, if there are no accidents, he will definitely win." Wang Lin nodded slightly and didn't speak. He closed his eyes and continued to absorb the thunder into his body and convert it into origin energy. Shengong, whose eyes were filled with excitement. He had just gained some enlightenment, so he immediately sat down inside the Thunder Lake and began to cultivate again. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, 8 years went by. Including the previous 2 years, 10 years of time had passed in a flash. The origin energy in Wang Lin's body gradually stabilized under the absorption of the Thunder origin spell. His origin soul had reached saturation, but he couldn't absorb any more. Wang Lin understood that this was because his cultivation level wasn't high enough. Only after reaching the second step could he continue to absorb origin energy. The most important thing right now was to break through his own cultivation level. He stood up and looked at the surrounding thunder. After 10 years of contact, he had a better understanding of thunder. It was as if he could see through its origin, but it was a bit blurry. Wang Lin's body moved. He left the inner ring of the Thunder Lake and walked toward the edge. Shengong, who was sent away by Wang Lin 3 years ago. Although this person respected Wang Lin a lot, Wang Lin always felt a bit uncomfortable. Before Shengong, who left, he left behind a message jade. The silver-horned thunder beast rushed over. Wang Lin sat on its back and left the Thunder Lake. The Celestial Guard turned into a shadow and merged with the shadow behind Wang Lin. After 10 years of absorbing thunder, the Thunder Beast's speed had become even faster. It charged out of the asteroid field and disappeared into the depths of the stars. Wang Lin already knew about the change in the heaven-defying bead. Not only were the souls of Li Muin, Wang Ping, and Wang Lin not affected, they became even more crystal clear. I must go to the Thunder Celestial Realm in 20 years, but right now I need to find a secret place to increase my cultivation. In addition, the change in the heaven-defying bead seems to indicate that it no longer needs the power of the 5 elements. So what exactly do I need? Wang Lin sat on the back of the Thunder Beast and began to ponder. The heaven-defying bead was divided into yin and yang and didn't fuse with each other. This puzzled Wang Lin. Sun and moon, yin and yang. As Wang Lin pondered, the Thunder Beast flew through the stars. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and a jade appeared in his hand. This was left behind by Shengong Hu. It was a star map of the entire Luo Tian southern domain. There were many places on it. With this, Wang Lin wouldn't get lost. The place before him was known as the Wild Land of the Luo Tian southern domain. Most of the planets here were abandoned, and there was nothing special about them. Very few powerful cultivators would come here. However, there were mortals living on these planets, and there were also some low-rank cultivation families. I have 20 years of time to prepare for the trip to the Thunder Celestial Realm. Moreover, some of my spells need to be modified. A lot of my spells don't conform to what I see as the third step. If I continue to use them, I'll be walking the wrong path. In particular, the endless resentment needed for the underworld river will need to be collected as quickly as possible. Also, I should have a cultivation planet of my own in the Luo Tian star system. As Wang Lin pondered, his eyes lit up. Before him, he saw an abandoned planet that was filled with vitality. It was obvious there were a lot of mortals living there. The reason he chose this place was because it was very similar to Suzaku. He was a bit homesick. Wang Lin jumped into the air. The Thunder Beast let out a whimper as it helplessly turned into the god-slaying war chariot and flew back into Wang Lin's bag of holding. Just as he was about to charge toward the planet, Wang Lin's expression changed. The celestial sword inside his bag gave off a powerful fluctuation. This fluctuation contained a powerful aura and an ancient sword intent. Damn sword intent, your grandpa, Su, has finally conquered you. From now on, I'm a real sword spirit. I'm powerful. I'm really powerful. Su Ligua is a new student. Hee, tomorrow will be very interesting. I still have to say it again. Tomorrow, 3 a.m., I'm asking for monthly votes. My goal is to get into the top 4. It's a bit difficult, but I ask fellow cultivators to give me the monthly votes. Instead of resting, I've increased the number of updates. Chapter 730. Wang Lin had a strange expression on his face as he looked down at the bag of holding. The bag of holding was emitting a strong sword will, as well as an insolent aura that seemed like it was about to burst out. Lil Lin, hurry up and release your Lord Su. Let me tell you, I'm really powerful now. Su Ligua's domineering voice echoed out. The bag of holding trembled violently, as if an ancient force was about to burst out. As the force reached its peak, Wang Lin's expression was calm as he slapped the bag of holding. Immediately, Su Ligua's domineering voice weakened. Even the dense sword essence was immediately suppressed, unable to disperse. Oh, Lil Lin, I don't blame you for not understanding the situation. I'm no longer the Lil Su Ligua from years ago. I have inherited the ancient sword will. Before he could finish, Wang Lin's right hand formed a seal, and he slapped the bag of holding again. This time, Su Ligua's voice stopped. Noisy. Wang Lin frowned and said calmly. His body flickered as he headed toward the abandoned planet. From a distance, the planet was blue, as if the ocean took up more than half of it. The life force on the planet was strong, indicating that there were many mortals. Wang Lin's speed was very fast. He was like a meteor as he charged toward the planet. Due to his fast speed, an oval-shaped light screen appeared around him. It was as if he was breaking through the void as he charged toward the planet. The astral wind layer on the planet was relatively thin, so Wang Lin directly passed through it. When he arrived above the planet, he looked down, and a dazed expression appeared on his face. This place was too similar to Suzuka. It wasn't in terms of appearance, but in terms of feeling and aura. Wang Lin spread out his immortal sense and scanned the area. There were cultivators on this planet, but the highest level was only at the nascent soul level. There wasn't even a soul formation cultivator. He was silent for a moment. He didn't secretly look for a place to hide. Instead, he scanned the area and chose the highest mountain range on the planet. He took a step forward and headed there. The Hungyun Peak was the tallest mountain on planet Qingling. Although the spiritual qi here was thin, it was extremely spectacular. When standing on it, one could see the end of the world with a single glance. It was also surrounded by clouds and mist, making it look like a celestial mountain. There were many cultivation families on planet Qingling, just like the number of mortal countries on the planet. They were densely packed on the planet, and almost every mortal country had one or two cultivation families. This strange phenomenon had a lot to do with the lack of spirit qi on this planet and the fact that there were no soul formation cultivators among the cultivators. This Hungyun Peak was where the Zhang family had the most nascent soul cultivators on planet Qingling. Normally, this was where the peak nascent soul cultivators of the Zhang family would go into closed-door cultivation before their lifespans came to an end. Over time, the originally beautiful mountain peak became barren for some unknown reason. Even a mountain breeze that blew in from afar became cold and gloomy. On this day, the Zhang family's family head, Zhang Xinhai, who had been stuck at the late stage of nascent soul for the longest time, walked up from the foot of the Hungyun Peak step by step. Every generation of people who were about to die would walk to the end of their lives like this. They would sit at the top of the Hungyun Peak and look at the world as they slowly dissipated and died. He could feel that his body was slowly weakening. He slowly walked down, one difficult step at a time, until he reached the peak. At the top of the Hungyun Peak, there was a large stone platform. The moment Zhang Xinhai stepped on it, his eyes narrowed. He looked at the person on the platform with a hint of sharpness that was about to dissipate. This was a young man wearing white. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and even his clothes flapped in the wind. He stood there, but in Zhang Xinhai's eyes, it was as if he didn't exist. He checked with his divine sense, but there was no one there. However, when he looked with his naked eye, it was extremely clear. This strong contrast caused him to take a few steps back. His expression was calm, but there was a hint of shock in it. This place is not bad. The black-haired young man didn't look back. He looked at the horizon, at the slowly setting sun, and calmly said. It was a simple sentence that contained no divine ability whatsoever. However, when it entered Zhang Haixin's ears, it caused his weakened body to suddenly feel as if it had been infused with life. Furthermore, his status as the clan lord of the Zhang clan seemed to be suppressed by several times over. He subconsciously bowed his head, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. This was a type of aura pulling him in. Based on his experience, he knew this. Normally, mortals, even emperors, would involuntarily bow their heads in front of him because they were being pulled by his aura. At this moment, the same thing had happened to him. This could only mean one thing. In the eyes of the young man before him, he was like a mortal. It's a pity that such a peak is being used as a place of death by you all. The black-haired young man shook his head and waved his right hand. Immediately, the huge mountain trembled, and the death aura that had gathered here for countless years disappeared without a trace with a wave of his hand. The entire mountain seemed to have obtained a new life. It was like a person who had been sick for many years had suddenly recovered, and the vitality of the mountain became even stronger. Zhang Xinhai's body trembled, and he stared at the scene before him in a daze. It took him a long time to recover, and his face was filled with excitement. Without hesitation, he knelt on the ground and respectfully said, Junior Zhang Xinhai greets Senior. If Senior likes this Hungyun Peak, then Junior will immediately offer it to you. Hungyun Peak. The black-haired young man was Wang Lin. He turned around and looked at Zhang Xinhai. He slowly said, "Your lifespan is about to end. Even with my power, it won't be easy to change this." Zhang Xinhai revealed a bitter smile and respectfully said, "Senior has misunderstood. Junior knows his fate and doesn't need Senior's help. To be able to meet a powerful cultivator like Senior before I die, Junior has no regrets. Forget about this mountain. Even if it's planet Qingling, if Senior wants, I can still give it to you." Wang Lin turned around, and his right hand hit Zhang Xinhai's forehead. He formed a spell and calmly said, "I can't change your fate, but I can burn your own spirit force to increase your lifespan by 10 years. When he formed the spell, Wang Lin let out a sigh. This spell was something he could barely use after seeing the path to the third step. If he could do it back then, Li Muan wouldn't have ended up inside the heaven-defying bead. When the spell landed on Zhang Xinhai's forehead, his body trembled, and he immediately felt a surge of vitality coming from his body. His face turned red, and he took a deep breath. He looked at Wang Lin and respectfully said, "Thank you, Senior. If Senior has any orders, Junior will do his best to do it." Since he was able to become the head of the Zhang family, he was naturally not a stupid person. He knew that there was no free lunch in this world. When he saw Wang Lin say that this mountain was not bad, he immediately gave it away without hesitation. This was because he knew that with Wang Lin's cultivation level, standing here and saying these words was already very kind. If it was someone with a bad temper, Wang Lin would have directly occupied it. If he wasn't happy, Wang Lin could even slaughter a few small cultivation families like theirs. This was too easy. Zhang Xinhai guessed that the person in front of him was not from planet Qingling and must have come from the outside world. To be able to step into space, one's cultivation level must be at least at the soul transformation stage. Wang Lin looked at Zhang Xinhai and calmly said, "I'll give you 10 years to collect all kinds of resentment from the mortals in this world. The more, the better. If you can satisfy me in the end, then as long as I'm here, your Zhang family will have an endless supply of incense. Go." As Wang Lin spoke, he waved his sleeves. All Zhang Xinhai could feel was a strong wind blowing against his face. All he could see were thick clouds, and the wind whistled in his ears. When the clouds dissipated, he was already standing at the foot of the mountain. Everything that had just happened made him feel like he was dreaming. In a trance, he rubbed the spot between his eyebrows and sensed the rich life force within him. Taking a deep breath, he bowed to the mountain peak, eyes shining with excitement, and then hurried away. "I must do my best to fulfill that senior's request." Zhang Xinhai turned into a beam of light and headed toward the Zhang family. After sending off Zhang Xinhai, Wang Lin was silent for a moment. Then he slapped his bag of holding, and the Honorable Soul banner appeared. Wang Lin gently pressed down on the banner and inserted it into the ground. The banner was blown by the wind and immediately unfurled. The soul fragments flew out and surrounded the mountain. The 3 primary souls fused with the surroundings, and the entire mountain was covered in a thick, black fog. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and a powerful force came from his finger. The force landed on the mountain, and popping sounds echoed as a giant cave appeared. The door to the cave was at the top of the mountain. The surrounding rocks were ferocious, making it look very spectacular. Wang Lin's right index finger gently pointed, and a celestial art landed on the rock above the cave. The celestial art flickered in and out of existence and gave off a hint of pressure. After doing all of this, Wang Lin sat down in the lotus position. His divine sense spread out and swept planet Qingling once more. This time he didn't directly scan the planet, but sent out a message. "From today onward, this is my cultivation planet. The area within 5,000 kilometers of Hengyun Mountain is a forbidden area. Anyone who trespasses will not be forgiven." Wang Lin's divine sense was like a bolt of thunder that echoed across planet Qingling. It entered the ears of every cultivator and caused their expressions to change greatly. However, no one dared to resist. This spell that allowed his divine sense to spread across the entire planet shocked them and made them feel an unimaginable power. From this day onward, Planet Qingling had a master, and this master was Wang Lin. Wang Lin was the peak existence on planet Qingling. It was just like how the blood ancestor had the power to control life and death on his blood planet. It was also like how Tian Yunzi had the status of a supreme being on planet Tianyin. I wish everyone a happy Dragon Boat Festival. When everyone is eating zongzi, don't forget to leave one in your ears. It's a holiday, but I haven't eaten yet and have been busy writing. However, seeing my wife cooking zongzi and my daughter playing with toys makes me very happy, especially with so many fellow cultivators celebrating the festival together. I'm very happy. Today, I'll continue to write. Please take a look at the monthly votes. Where is the final destination of the monthly votes list of the rebellious immortal sect? Charge, charge, charge. Chapter 731. Time flashed by, and 5 years passed. All the cultivators on planet Qingling, no matter what their cultivation level was, were busy. Zhang Xinhai thought about it for a long time and decided not to hide Wang Lin's request. Instead, he spread it out and let all the cultivation families know. However, the Zhang family appeared as Wang Lin's messengers. During these 5 years, these cultivators ran around the city and collected resentment from mortals. This kind of aura existed in almost every mortal's body, but there was a difference in how much there was. There were simply too many mortals on planet Qingling. During these 5 years, they had only collected less than 40% of the resentment. Seeing that half of the time had passed, Zhang Xinhai was a bit anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Right now was already the fastest they could go. Even he himself had left the mortal world to collect resentment. His entire clan, as long as they were at the 5th level of qi condensation or higher, were sent out. During these 5 years, Wang Lin sat at the top of Hengyun Mountain refining a magic treasure. What he refined was the mountain and river screen in his origin soul. This treasure was quite damaged, but Wang Lin fused it with lightning to repair it. In addition, there was also the celestial realm mountain rock. Because it was cracked, it became unstable when he extracted the soul. Wang Lin used his origin soul to slowly repair it. As for the crown that was fused with the red butterfly and blue rose, Wang Lin studied it for a long time, but he still couldn't see through it. These 3 treasures were new. While refining them, Wang Lin took some time to combine them with what he saw in the 3rd step. He took out a very ordinary-looking treasure from his bag of holding. This item was the Soul Lasher. This whip had been with Wang Lin for a long time, so it had obvious advantages and disadvantages. Before, Wang Lin didn't care too much about it, but now he cared a lot about the Soul Lasher. Among all my Dharma treasures, in terms of sharpness, this item is inferior to the immortal sword and the curved saber. In terms of protection, it is inferior to the honorable soul banner and the mountain river diagram screen. In terms of divine power, it is inferior to the immortal world mountain rock and the god-slaying chariot. However, among all my treasures, this is the only one that contains the direction of the 3rd step that I saw. Wang Lin looked at the Soul Lasher in his hand and muttered to himself. The whip looked extremely ordinary. Only the heavenly ghost from back then had almost been scared out of his wits when he saw it, and seemed to recognize it. Extracting the nascent soul is actually secretly in line with the Tao of Essence. If it's karma, that can be explained as the body being karmic and the nascent soul being karmic. This item is an item refined by the Tao of karma. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly as he fell into deep thought. His domain had gradually changed from the Tao of life and death to the Tao of karma. This Tao was too big, and what Wang Lin had touched was only the tip of the iceberg. However, just this alone was enough for him to feel its majestic aura. With my current understanding of the karma domain, it's not enough to materialize the life and death reincarnation scroll. However, now that I have seen the direction of the 3rd step, I can use some tricks. As Wang Lin's right hand rubbed the Soul Lasher, his eyes became brighter and brighter. He thought of a method to use the Soul Lasher to materialize the karma domain before it could materialize. This would allow him to make sufficient preparations for his trip to the Thunder celestial realm. If I use the Soul Lasher to replace the karma domain, I should be able to succeed. As Wang Lin pondered, he made a decision in his heart. If it was anyone else, they would have hesitated for a long time and still wouldn't be able to make a decision. This was because they didn't know if this action was correct or if it would interfere with the existence of the karma domain. However, Wang Lin was different. He had clearly seen the path of the future. He knew that although this would affect the karma domain, it wouldn't affect it too much. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he picked up the soul asher. He shook the whip, and it immediately emitted cracking sounds that were crisp and seemed to be able to shake the mind. I'll use you as the treasure for my karma domain. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He placed the whip on his knees, closed his eyes, and began to refine it. Fusing one's domain into a treasure required a connection between the mind and the soul. Time often passed without leaving any traces. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter cycled several times. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years went by. Wang Lin had lived on planet Qingling for 8 years. During these 8 years, he had never left the mountain. In fact, aside from Zhang Xinhai, no one else on planet Qingling had seen Wang Lin. However, the name of the master of Hung Yun Peak, the ancestor of planet Qingling, became more and more important in the hearts of all the cultivators on the planet. In particular, the thick black fog outside the Hung Yun Peak caused all the cultivators to feel a chill in their hearts. Of course, there were some cultivators who had cultivated too much and recklessly charged into the black fog. They were prepared to challenge the dignity of the so-called ancestor of planet Qingling. The moment these people stepped into the black fog, they were immediately devoured by it. Only miserable screams echoed across the world, warning all the cultivators not to enter. As for mortals, it wasn't that troublesome. When they saw the black fog, they knew this place was filled with danger, so no one dared to enter. Even if someone lost their way and walked in, Wang Lin wouldn't commit suicide. The soul flag contained Wang Lin's divine sense, so it would naturally knock them out and send them thousands of miles away. During these 3 years, Wang Lin calmly refined his treasure, but the only thing that made him feel noisy was Su Ligua. He didn't know how this person had broken the seal on Wang Lin's bag of holding. Although he still couldn't come out, he kept shouting. On this day, the soul asher on Wang Lin's knees had slightly fused with his domain. It was even easier to control than using divine sense. At the same time, it had also fused with the changes of karma, making the whip even more powerful. However, at this moment, the discordant voice appeared again. Little Lin, do you dare to let your grandpa Sue out? Now that I'm powerful, you don't dare to let me out, right? Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. I've already thought it through. From now on, you can follow me and we'll switch identities. From now on, I'll be your master. Su Ligua's arrogant voice became more and more domineering. Wang Lin frowned. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew time was of the essence, and he didn't want to waste it on Su Ligua, he would have already taught him a lesson. At this moment, not only did this Su Ligua not understand, he became even more arrogant. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He slapped his bag of holding and coldly said, "Get the hell out here. Hey, how dare you talk to your grandpa, Su, like this? Little Lin, don't you understand the situation? I'm no longer the Su Ligua from back then." As Su Ligua's voice echoed, a cloud of black mist rose up from his bag of holding. This black mist exuded a sharp sword energy that rushed out and fused with the mist to form the image of Su Ligua. The moment he appeared, he let out a wild laugh and shouted, Su Ligua, have my day. Ha, the heavens have pity on me. I've finally made it. Wang Lin coldly looked at Su Ligua and didn't say anything. After Su Ligua finished laughing, he looked down at Wang Lin with a fierce gaze. At this moment, he had returned to his arrogant self from back then. As he charged out, his body rapidly shrank and turned into a large sword in the air. This sword looked exactly like a celestial sword. As it charged out, a ray of sword energy howled like crazy. It contained an ancient sword intent that was extremely shocking. As he charged out, it was as if he could shatter the void. He closed in on Wang Lin in an instant. Wang Lin's gaze was still cold. As Su Ligua closed in, his body didn't move, but the soul lasher on his knees flew up. A strange aura came from it and covered everything within 1,000 feet of the mountain. This aura contained an unimaginable power. It was as if everything within 1,000 feet had been isolated, and it was filled with a majesty that could make anyone collapse. Su Ligua felt it the most. He let out a cry of surprise, and the large sword he had turned into became unstable. However, an even more powerful sword energy came from the large sword he had turned into. It was clear that he was going to resist the attack head-on. At this moment, Wang Lin's voice slowly echoed. Nothing in this world can escape karma. Karma is everywhere, and karma is everywhere. The soul lasher moved, and with a bang, it was as if the door to fate had been opened. The head and tail of the soul lasher intertwined, forming a complete circle. The large sword that Su Ligua had turned into fell into the circle and quickly disintegrated. Karma is the origin of all karma. Wang Lin's voice rose and fell once more. The disintegration of the large sword was completed in an instant. It turned into a thick, black mist, and Su Ligua's face appeared. His face was filled with horror, and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. Master, I was wrong. Little Su was wrong. I was really wrong this time. Spare me this time. Spare me this time. Su Ligua immediately begged. His voice was extremely miserable and shocking. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he looked at the circle formed by the soul lasher. Su Ligua's black fog was quickly disappearing. He said calmly, "Your ancient sword intent was obtained because of me. Therefore, the karma also belongs to me." Su Ligua was horrified to find that the black fog was disappearing even faster. A sense of danger suddenly rose up in him, scaring him out of his wits. He immediately begged, "Master, I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Besides, if you hadn't refined me into a demon, I wouldn't be here today. Isn't that right, Master? Isn't this karma?" Su Ligua said anxiously. He could feel that he was about to completely disappear. The regret in his heart had already taken over his entire body. Of all the things I shouldn't have done, I shouldn't have provoked this fiend. In all these years, I've never succeeded once. Su Ligua, why don't you remember? This person is old Demon Wang. He's even more of a demon than me. Su Ligua wanted to slap himself. Wang Lin smiled and said slowly, "That's your karma, not mine. Today's 3 chapters are not 9,000 words, but 10,000 words. Continue to write and try to submit the 3rd chapter before 6 p.m. Begging for monthly votes." Chapter 732. The circle formed by the soul lasher loosened slightly before turning into a ray of light and disappearing from the world. This object had merged with the intent and no longer had a physical form. Like the intent, it was fused with the void. It couldn't be seen, but it could be felt. Su Ligua, who was on the verge of collapse, immediately took a few steps back. His eyes were still filled with fear. At this moment, his previous overbearing aura had completely dissipated and was replaced by a fawning expression. He quickly said, "Master's spell has become even more powerful. In fact, little Su only said that because I wanted Master to practice the spell a few more times. Master, little Su's loyalty to you can be seen by the heavens. I have no intention of rebelling." Wang Lin glanced at Su Ligua and calmly said, "Since you have come out, you don't need to return to the storage bag for now. Stay within 5,000 kilometers of this mountain and comprehend your ancient sword intent on your own." Su Ligua was startled. He didn't expect old demon fiend Star to be so easy to talk to this time. His eyes turned, and he quickly said with a loyal expression, "Master, Su Ligua can't bear to part with you. I only feel at ease when I'm by your side." He carefully looked at Wang Lin as he spoke. Wang Lin's expression was the same as usual. He nodded and said, "In that case, you can stay here." Su Ligua revealed a smile, but he felt bitter inside. Could it be that old demon fiend Star really wants me to move freely within 5,000 kilometers? No, this doesn't seem like old demon fiend Star's personality. There must be something wrong with this. Fortunately, Suligwa is smart. Otherwise, I might have to suffer again. Suligwa felt quite proud of himself. He quickly condensed his incarnation and sat down cross-legged. After sitting there for a while, he nervously looked at Wang Lin, trying to find some clues. Wang Lin ignored Suligwa and slapped his bag of holding. Immediately, the mosquito beast and thunder frog appeared. The mosquito beast lay comfortably on the thunder frog's body. After it appeared, it gave Wang Lin a hiss, then lay back down, as if it didn't want to leave. There were also some mosquito beasts that came out with them. These were all young mosquitoes that had followed them. Even though they had yet to grow up, they still looked extremely ferocious. As for the thunder frog, it was obviously used to the hateful mosquito beast on its back. After it appeared, its belly emitted bursts of thunder. It found a place to the side and lay there motionlessly, as if it was sleeping. Immediately after, the god-slaying war chariot flew out and turned into a thunder beast. After it appeared, it immediately saw the thunder frog and let out a low roar. The thunder frog's originally lazy expression was instantly swept away. It opened its eyes and stared at the thunder beast. Thunder rumbled in its belly, and the mosquito beast on its back also became spirited and looked at the thunder beast with interest. Suligwa's eyes widened as he carefully looked at the thunder beast. He thought, "Master is indeed worthy of being called master. It has only been a while since I last saw him, and now another dumb beast has appeared. Fight! It's best if you guys fight. Then I'll let you all know that I'm the one who has been with Master the longest. However, Master is really fated with beasts. I'm ashamed of my inferiority in this regard. What I have is fated with beauties." Suligwa was in a trance as he thought about the little beauty he had met in the demon spirit land. Alas, since ancient times, too much love leads to regret. This is not something that old devil Wang Ligua can understand. Suligwa felt a bit regretful as he looked at the thunder beast, the thunder frog, and the mosquitoes. Then he looked at Wang Lin, who was cultivating. He felt a sense of loneliness and pride. The refinement of the treasures continued, but at this point, it was no longer important. Time was limited, so Wang Lin was going to adjust his spells based on what he saw in the third step. He pondered. Among the spells he mastered, the strongest one he could use was the Heavenly Chop. However, if his cultivation hadn't broken through the first step of cultivation and reached the illusory Een realm, every time he used this spell, it would consume a small amount of origin energy. Then there was the Stop spell. This spell was no weaker than the Heavenly Chop, and it would often play a decisive role at a special moment. Aside from these two spells, there are the Nirvana, Demonic, and Underworld Fingers. There were also the three forms of Tao created by the Life and Death domain: Underworld Springs Tao, Underworld Springs Soul, and Underworld Springs Force. What he needed to adjust were the Nirvana, Demonic, and Underworld Springs Fingers. If he continued to cultivate these three spells, it would be very harmful to the third step. These three spells were incomplete and would cause discomfort to the body. As for why they were harmful to the third step, Wang Lin wasn't sure. He could only rely on his intuition. As he pondered, he flicked his right index finger and cast the three spells one by one. He wanted to see through them. Gradually, his right index finger moved faster and faster. The three spells, Nirvana, Demon Transformation, and Underworld Springs, continued to circulate. Wang Lin frowned and relied on the vague feeling in his heart to find out what was wrong with them. This process consumed a lot of energy, so it didn't take long for him to feel tired. After resting for a bit, Wang Lin continued. The Wheel of Time rotated once more and 2 years passed. During these 2 years, most of Wang Lin's attention was focused on improving the spells, but he still wasn't satisfied. Wang Lin understood that he was too impatient. However, Wang Lin didn't give up and did his best to slowly improve. If his current actions were seen by cultivators at the second step or Nirvana Shatterer stage, they would be shocked, because this kind of improvement was equivalent to deducing the original celestial spell from a spell. Not to mention him, even the All-Seer and the others would find it difficult to accomplish this. During these 2 years of time, the Thunder Frog and Thunder Beast were very hostile to each other, but they didn't fight. The thunder frog's cultivation level wasn't high enough, so it didn't dare to attack. The thunder beast was disdainful, even though the thunder beast made it feel a hidden threat. As for the mosquito beast, its interest shifted from the thunder frog to the thunder beast. It would occasionally fly around the thunder beast as if it wanted to lie on the thunder beast's back. However, it didn't succeed every time. However, the more it failed, the more interested the mosquito beast became. Suligwa didn't care about any of this. As time passed, he noticed that Wang Lin had forgotten about him, so he carefully retreated until he was 1,000 feet away from Wang Lin. He turned into a cloud of black mist and happily flew around the mountain. However, he remembered Wang Lin's words and didn't dare to go more than 5,000 kilometers. He gradually felt bored as he couldn't see a single person within 5,000 kilometers. The people outside were often far away, so they would go around this area. This made Suligwa very depressed. 1.5 years ago, there were a few cultivators outside that didn't dare to come in. However, he used an illusion to trick them into coming in. After playing with them for a while, he released them. However, after that, not a single cultivator dared to come in. Many years later, the cultivators that were released would still feel a chill in their hearts whenever they thought about this experience. On this day, he was flying around in a very boring manner, hoping to encounter a mortal that accidentally broke in. As he flew, Suligwa's body suddenly trembled. A sense of excitement that hadn't appeared in a long time immediately drowned him. Suligwa's eyes lit up as he stared at the fog in the distance. He couldn't help but let out an excited roar. Someone finally came. Thousands of kilometers away from the mountain, at the edge of the black fog, Zhang Xinhai's haggard face was filled with death aura. Beside him was an extremely nervous middle-aged man. He wore a black robe, and his cultivation level was also at the peak of nascent soul. The middle-aged man looked at the black fog in the distance with dread and whispered, "Father, are we really going?" "Of course I have to go," Zhang Xinhai said solemnly. "Your father's lifespan is about to end, and other than fulfilling Senior's request, I'm also going to introduce you to Senior. When I die, you'll take my place and work for Senior to ensure that our Zhang family lives on forever." The middle-aged man hesitated for a bit and said, "But father, I heard from a few fellow cultivators that this Senior is a bit strange. About a year ago, a few fellow cultivators were—" Before he could finish, Zhang Xinhai turned around and glared at him. The middle-aged man immediately shut his mouth. Suligwa's body was like a wandering spirit as he approached in an instant. He was hidden in the black fog, so the father and son of the Zhang family didn't notice him. Suligwa's face was filled with excitement as he looked at the father and son and muttered to himself, "Not bad, not bad. The old one is about to die and can't withstand my torment. Your grandpa, Su, should be kind and let your body go." As for the young one, the excitement in Suligwa's eyes became more and more intense. He looked at the middle-aged man through the black fog and found a trace of evil in his eyes. He allowed a dry cough and said in a righteous tone, "Who are you? Tell me your name." Zhang Xinhai took a deep breath. Thousands of kilometers away from the mountain, he didn't enter. Instead, he clasped his hands together and said respectfully, "Junior Zhang Xinhai has completed Senior's task and requests to see Senior." His voice was hoarse as he slowly entered the black fog. Suligwa's eyes turned and he said, "The old one, come in. I'll take you to see my master." Zhang Xinhai was startled. He hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward into the black mist. As soon as he entered, he felt a gust of wind wrap around him, and his body was involuntarily propelled forward like lightning. Not long after, he arrived at the top of the mountain. The wind dissipated, and he immediately saw Wang Lin. He respectfully stood to the side and said, "Senior, Junior has not let you down. I have collected all the resentment of the mortals on planet Qingling." As he spoke, he took out jade slips from his storage space. There were more than 1,000 of them in total, and he placed them on the ground. Then he respectfully took a few steps back. After Suligwa sent Zhang Xinhai off, he excitedly returned 10,000 kilometers away. He stood in the black fog and stared at the middle-aged man outside. He smiled and said, "Little boy, come in. Don't be afraid. Your grandpa, Su, will give you some benefits." When he saw the middle-aged man hesitate, he immediately shouted, "Why aren't you coming in?" The middle-aged man clenched his teeth and walked into the black fog. Wang Lin opened his eyes and scanned the jade slips with his divine sense. He immediately felt the resentment inside. This resentment was shocking, and there was a large amount of it. It was as if it had formed a storm of resentment. "Very good. The person you brought will be the old man's messenger outside the Hongyun Peak in the future," Wang Lin slowly said. After pondering a bit, he took out a pill from his bag of holding and threw it at Zhang Xinhai. "Give this to your son. If his talent is high enough, he might be able to use the spiritual energy inside the pill to reach the soul formation stage." Zhang Xinhai's face was filled with ecstasy. He quickly accepted the pill and carefully placed it in his chest. He was moved and said, "Thank you, Senior. This resentment is an illusory thing. It can be regenerated. In the future, your Zhang family will have to collect it again every few years," Wang Lin ordered. Then he slapped his bag of holding and took out a few red seeds. He handed them to Zhang Xinhai. "This is called the Celestial Ascension Fruit. Have your people plant it and use their spiritual energy to stimulate it. In the next 10 years, try to plant as many as possible." Zhang Xinhai quickly nodded. The seeds of the Celestial Ascension Fruit were given to him by Qian Kuizi. Zhang Xinhai and his son left the Hongyun Peak. However, the son was in a trance and had a strange look on his face, as if he was still reminiscing. As for Su Ligua, he was strictly grounded by Wang Lin. If it wasn't for the fact that what Su Ligua had done wasn't too bad, Wang Lin would have refined this person. Su Ligua, who was confined within 100 feet, had a wronged expression, but he didn't dare to sneak out anymore. He could only stare into the distance and sigh in his heart. Didn't I just temporarily merge with his body and feel what it feels like to have a body? It's not a big deal. Sigh, Wang Lin didn't have time to care about Su Ligua. After he was grounded, he once again began to perfect his spell. As for the resentment, he absorbed it one by one and merged it with the yellow spring. After absorbing the resentment, the yellow spring was completely different from before. The resentment fused with each other and gradually formed the shadow of the spring's soul. Time quickly passed. Improving the spell consumed a lot of Wang Lin's energy. Although he wasn't completely successful, as he continued to improve it, he continued to feel the direction of the third step. This caused Wang Lin's domain to gradually increase. Finally, on the 18th year since he came to planet Qingling, his life and death domain reached perfection without any flaws. This meant that as long as he had enough celestial spiritual energy, he could truly reach the peak of the first step. Wang Lin still had some celestial jades in his bag of holding, but he didn't know if it was enough. However, even if it wasn't enough, Wang Lin planned on drinking the celestial liquid. This time, he had to reach the peak of the late stage of Ascendant and reach the peak of the first step. The first step of cultivation. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly. Back when I reached the Ascendant stage, ancient Demon Bei Lu said that heaven-defying cultivators would attract divine retribution. I just don't know if one day I break through the first step and reach the illusory Yin stage. Will divine retribution descend? Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the sky with a cold gaze. 10,000 words for the third chapter. I've been writing since the morning. I don't care if I'm tired or not. I just want votes. I have to support the third chapter. This is the motivation to explode. Finally, I wish everyone a happy holiday. I have to go to my parents' home for the holidays. My family has been waiting for me. Chapter 733. Planet Qingling, northwest of a vast desert. There is a large amount of celestial jades placed in a certain order on the ground. These celestial jades formed a giant formation. Wang Lin was sitting in the lotus position inside the formation with his eyes closed. Every time he breathed, a large amount of celestial spiritual energy would come out from the formation and enter Wang Lin's body. This cycle continued, and the celestial spiritual energy inside his body slowly condensed. The peak of Ascendant wasn't unattainable for cultivators, but not many people could reach this step. The reason for this wasn't the domain or the celestial jades. It was the origin energy. If the origin energy of heaven and earth fused with the origin soul during the Ascendant stage, and there wasn't enough origin energy, then even if one could reach the Ascendant stage, they wouldn't be able to reach the peak. Similarly, even if one had enough origin energy, if one was injured too much during the Ascendant stage and the origin soul was damaged, then the origin energy that fused with the origin soul would dissipate. In the end, one wouldn't be able to reach the peak. It could be said that origin energy was the key to reaching the peak of the first step. In addition, Ascendant cultivators couldn't absorb origin energy from the heavens and earth, so there weren't many who reached the peak. Wang Lin's origin energy had reached the limit of fusing with his origin soul after being refined by the Thunder Pool. He had met the most basic requirement, and his domain had sublimated to the peak of the Ascendant stage. As he absorbed a large amount of celestial spiritual energy, he was slowly approaching the peak of the Ascendant stage. However, the amount of celestial spiritual energy needed to reach the peak of the first step was a terrifying amount. After absorbing for 1 year, Wang Lin used up all of his celestial jades. He took out the celestial liquid from his bag of holding and swallowed it without any hesitation. The moment the celestial liquid entered his body, it brought with it a sense of intoxication. Mist came out from Wang Lin's body, and this mist contained the fragrance of wine that spread out. At the same time, the celestial liquid turned into powerful celestial spiritual energy that rampaged through Wang Lin's body. It was like a powerful force that pushed his cultivation toward the peak of the Ascendant stage. Celestial spiritual energy follows one's will. This was the description of the peak of the Ascendant stage. One's domain was complete, and there were no more flaws. Their Tao heart was firm, and their body was filled with celestial spiritual energy. Even their aura seemed to contain celestial spiritual energy. On the 19th year and 8th month after Wang Lin arrived on planet Qingling, he reached peak Ascendant. As Wang Lin reached the great circle of the Cauldron Ascension, all of the celestial jades turned to dust. Tender green appeared on the ground, and from a distance, it looked full of life. Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. His eyes contained the heavens as clouds drifted past. After 1,000 years of cultivation, I've finally achieved perfection. Wang Lin exhaled and smiled. Thinking back to 1,000 years ago, that little character from the Hungyu sect had now reached the peak of the first step. He had already surpassed Rosefinch's son. This was something that no one on Suzaku could have imagined. Wang Lin didn't get up. Instead, he touched his bag of holding and a glittering, golden celestial brush appeared in his hand. Wang Lin held it with one hand and began to casually draw in front of him. Previously, his limit had been 7 strokes. Now, he completed it in one go. After 7 strokes, he drew another. The 8-stroke rune emitted a dazzling golden light that was as dazzling as the sun. Anyone who looked at it would be entranced. The power of 8 strokes is 1 level higher than before. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. At this moment, he didn't look like a cultivator, but more like a well-read scholar. When he put away the brush, the rune dissipated and the origin soul returned to Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin stood up, took a step forward, and disappeared without a trace. Half a month later, a bolt of thunder shot into the sky from planet Qingling inside the thunder. Wang Lin was sitting on the back of the thunder beast with his eyes closed. All the cultivators on planet Qingling looked up at this moment. Their expressions were respectful, but there was also a sense of relief. It was as if the invisible pressure had gradually disappeared with Wang Lin's departure. Before leaving, Wang Lin took away the celestial ascension fruits he had grown over the past 10 years and another batch of resentment jades. The underworld river soul in his underworld river had already shown signs of awakening. Thunder roared, and Wang Lin left planet Qingling, the place he had lived for nearly 20 years. This was his cave. After taking the thunder furnace, he would naturally come back. It would be safer to go to the thunder celestial realm from here. As the thunder rumbled through the stars, Wang Lin opened his eyes and began to ponder. If he wanted to go to the thunder celestial realm, he needed a thunder furnace. Without it, there was no way to go to the thunder celestial realm. Wang Lin naturally knew this. However, the Luo Tian star system was different from the Alliance star system. The thunder furnaces weren't scattered, but for some reason, they all appeared at the Thunder Celestial Temple. The people of the Thunder Celestial Temple distributed one to several, depending on the strength of each family. Right now, there were only 3 months until the Thunder Celestial Realm opened. This was the time for the families to obtain the Thunder Furnaces. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he made a decision. Since there is no Thunder Furnace, then I'll steal one. Wang Lin placed his right hand on the Thunder Beast's head and gently patted it. The Thunder Beast immediately let out a roar as if it was enjoying it. In truth, if he looked for Shengonghu, he might be able to obtain the Thunder Furnace. However, Shengonghu's cultivation level was too high, so if he met him too often, he might reveal a flaw. Unless it was an important matter, Wang Lin didn't want to look for Shengonghu. Not every cultivator that entered the Thunder Celestial Realm was a second-step cultivator. After all, there weren't many second-step cultivators. Most of those that entered were at the soul transformation or ascended stage. In the southern domain of the Luo Tian star system, Wang Lin found a cultivation planet with the Jade Shengong who left behind. Wang Lin didn't pay attention to the name of the planet, but Shengonghu's Jade said that there were 2 cultivation families on this planet. Every time the Thunder Celestial Realm opened, the 2 families would obtain 1 or 2 Thunder Furnaces. Also, no one in these 2 cultivation families had a cultivation level above the peak of the Ascendant stage. After arriving at the cultivation planet, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found that none of the powerful cultivators of the 2 cultivation families were here. He floated among the stars and closed his eyes to cultivate. Time slowly passed. 1 month before the Thunder Celestial Realm opened, more than 10 rays of light flew toward Wang Lin like meteors. Among the cultivators that returned, one of them was at the illusory stage, while the rest were at the ascendant and soul transformation stages. They were very fast, but they immediately stopped not far away, and their gazes fell on Wang Lin. The cultivator who had reached the illusory stage was an old man. He had a head of silver hair, and his eyes shined brightly. There wasn't much origin energy in his body, and it hadn't stabilized yet. It was obvious he had just reached the illusory stage not long ago. He took a step forward and carefully looked at Wang Lin. His face was filled with uncertainty. The old man said, in a serious tone, "Lord Messenger, why have you come to Planet Holy Altar?" Wang Lin opened his eyes and frowned an indiscernible amount. His eyes were calm as he slowly said, "Did you guys come back with a thunder furnace?" The old man's expression changed, and he said, "That's right. Lord Messenger, please speak." Wang Lin calmly said, "I need a thunder furnace." The old man looked at Wang Lin and laughed after a long time. His laughter contained a hint of arrogance. His eyes lit up, and he shouted, "When I went to the Thunder Celestial Temple, I heard that someone pretended to be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. I originally thought it was nonsense, but after seeing you today, this old man is certain that you are the person who pretended to be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple." "Oh." Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he calmly looked at the old man. The old man sneered. "Which messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple doesn't have a large number of cultivation families? It is extremely easy to obtain a mere thunder furnace. Moreover, the old man has seen all the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple in the southern domain of the Luo Tian, but you are extremely unfamiliar. More importantly, all the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple are gathered at the Thunder Celestial Temple. They won't come out until the Thunder Celestial Realm opens." Wang Lin nodded and no longer wasted any time. He got up, and the Celestial Guard puppet appeared. With one step, its body shined brightly, and it threw a punch. That punch caused a massive sonic boom to echo out as it shot toward the old man. The old man's expression changed. He only saw that Wang Lin's cultivation was at the peak of the late stage of Ascendant. He didn't even care about the thunder beast Wang Lin was riding. However, he didn't expect Wang Lin to have this kind of puppet. With a cold snort, the old man formed a seal with his right hand and pointed forward. A black flame immediately appeared in his hand. With a flick, the black flame immediately scattered into countless specks of flame that filled the area like stars in the sky. The people around him had already scattered and were watching from afar. The celestial guard puppet didn't care about the specks of fire at all. It allowed them to land on its body. Not only did it not slow down, it became even faster. Its fist closed in on the old man with a single step. When it landed, it turned into a dragon that shot out. The old man's expression changed slightly, and he immediately retreated. At the same time, his hand formed a seal, and a flame shield appeared before him. The celestial guard's fist landed on the flame shield and created a thunderous rumble. Cracks immediately appeared on the flame shield, and it instantly collapsed. As the sound echoed, the old man's face turned pale, and he quickly retreated. As for the celestial guard puppet, it was also forced back a few steps. A black flame burned its arm and spread across its body. "I only want one thunder furnace." Wang Lin's expression was calm as he looked at the old man. The old man stared at Wang Lin. That punch from the puppet had shocked him quite a bit. If he didn't use an origin spell, it would be impossible for him to defeat the puppet that was at the same cultivation level as him. This person has this kind of puppet, so he is not an ordinary person. Even if he pretends to be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple, it has nothing to do with the old man. However, if I just hand over one thunder furnace, wouldn't my Zhang family lose all face? The old man was in a bit of a dilemma. If Wang Lin was at the second step, then perhaps the old man would agree. After all, their family had obtained 3 thunder furnaces, so giving one to someone else wasn't out of the question. However, if a peak ascendant cultivator asked him to hand it over, then he would lose face. Wang Lin didn't want to waste time with him. Although this person's cultivation was a bit beyond his expectations, this person had just entered the illusory Yin stage and hadn't stabilized it. Wang Lin was at the peak of the ascendant stage, and with his spells and treasures, it wouldn't be difficult for him to fight him. He slapped his bag of holding, and a mountain rock immediately appeared in his hand. The moment it appeared, it turned into a giant celestial mountain. The celestial spiritual energy on it was very dense, and there was even a hint of pressure coming from it. Wang Lin pressed his right hand on it, and the mountain rock trembled. It gave off an ancient aura and gathered under Wang Lin's right hand. When he raised his hand, strands of fog quickly gathered and formed a fist-sized ball of fog. When the old man saw this, his expression changed greatly. He retreated without hesitation, and his eyes were filled with terror as he exclaimed, "Spirit extraction spell. You're only a peak ascendant first step cultivator. How can you use this kind of spell?" Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he pushed forward with his right hand. The ball of fog flew out and shot toward the old man with a powerful pressure. At the same time, Wang Lin quickly followed after the ball of fog. He raised his right hand, and a bolt of thunder gathered in his hand. In an instant, a thunderous roar came from the stars. As the thunder flashed, a bolt of thunder condensed in Wang Lin's right hand. At this moment, Wang Lin was like a celestial who controlled thunder. He held the bolt of lightning in his hand, and his eyes were cold as he walked toward the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly, and he retreated once more. His hands formed a seal, and he pointed at the spot between his eyebrows. The spot between his eyebrows moved, and a crack appeared in the middle, as if he had a third eye. His face was completely red, and the blood in his body rapidly flowed, as if it had gathered on his face. The origin energy in his body also moved like crazy and gathered between his eyebrows along with the blood. It was as if his body was being torn apart. As intense pain filled the old man's body, the third eye between his eyebrows slowly opened. A roar came from the old man as he stared at Wang Lin. His hand formed a seal, and he pointed to the 2 acupuncture points above his ears. With a loud bang, the third eye at the center of his brows instantly opened wide. A ray of red light spread out from it and formed a fan shape that quickly spread out in front of him. Wang Lin's expression changed. The old man's spell was too strange. Wang Lin's body slowed down a bit. The moment the mountain's soul closed in on the old man's third eye opened. Inside the red light, the mountain's soul rapidly disintegrated. This scene caused Wang Lin's eyes to narrow, and he threw out the lightning in his right hand without any hesitation. With a rumble, the lightning shot out toward the old man. The old man was already struggling to use this mysterious origin energy spell. After all, he had only reached the illusory Yin stage less than 2 years ago, so he didn't have enough origin energy. The red light from the third eye only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it couldn't withstand it any longer. The third eye automatically closed and disappeared. As the lightning and the mountain's soul closed in, the old man clenched his teeth and slapped his bag of holding. He took out an item and held it high above his head. Wang Lin's left hand reached out and grabbed the item in the old man's hand. It was the Thunder Cauldron. After putting away the Thunder Cauldron, Wang Lin didn't leave. Instead, he looked at the old man with a strange light in his eyes and slowly said, "Can you exchange the spell you used earlier with me?" Chapter 734. The old man let out a cold snort as he took a few steps back and said, "If it wasn't for the fact that the old man has only reached the illusory Yin stage for 2 years, no matter how many spells or treasures you have, you wouldn't be a match for the old man." Wang Lin put away the mountain soul powder and calmly said, "What I want to discuss with you is an exchange for this spell." The old man sneered. "Don't even think about it. You've already taken the Thunder Furnace, so why haven't you left yet?" Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he raised his right hand and pointed forward. A ray of black light shot out. The moment the black light appeared, the old man felt like his vitality was going to be sucked out. The black light charged out toward the cultivation planet and disappeared, but the old man's divine sense followed the black light. He saw the black light land on a plain, causing all the vegetation on the plain to wither. Countless strands of vitality flew out of the cultivation planet and entered Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin calmly said, "This spell is called the Finger of Death." The old man let out a snort and said, "If the old man hadn't reached the illusory Yin stage, this spell might be acceptable, but now it's useless." Although he said this, he was secretly shocked by the overbearing power of this spell. What he cared about wasn't the spell's power, but the ability to absorb vitality. Wang Lin's right hand pointed again, and another strand of demonic, black gas surrounded his finger. He flicked it, and it stopped before the old man. This spell is called the Demonic Finger. It converts a celestial spiritual energy into demonic spiritual energy. When used with the Finger of Death, the effect is even better. The old man stared at the black gas before him and pondered a bit. He raised his right hand and grabbed it. He scanned it with his divine sense. After a long time, he looked up at Wang Lin and slowly said, "Rumor has it that the cultivators of planet Donglin are good at using demonic spiritual energy spells. So you are from planet Donglin. However, this divine ability is also of little value." Wang Lin pondered a bit. Back then, what Situnin cared about the most was the underworld finger. Even if it was flawed, it couldn't be traded. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he raised his right hand and slowly said, "The last spell I used was learned from a second step Nirvana Shatterer Senior. If you still don't like it, then forget about it." The old man was stunned and didn't believe it. With a thought from Wang Lin, the celestial guard puppet turned into a golden meteor and charged toward the cultivation planet behind it. The moment the puppet moved, the old man's expression darkened. Shortly after, the celestial guard puppet returned with a ferocious beast in its hand. That beast looked extremely ferocious and was covered in spikes. There was even half a mortal arm at the corner of its mouth. Clearly, it had been eating when the celestial guard puppet caught it. Wang Lin's right hand formed a sword with 2 fingers. He hadn't used the celestial slaughter art in a long time. All the slaughter energy he had gathered back then had been used on the puppet, and it had all been used in this battle. However, Wang Lin had a very deep understanding of the celestial slaughter art. After all, he had cultivated it for more than 100 years. At this moment, he focused for a moment and pointed with a finger. A ray of sword energy shot out from his finger and charged at the beast. The sword energy entered its body, and the beast let out a miserable groan. In an instant, its body widened as the old man's eyes widened. In the end, it turned into a skeleton. A strand of gray gas came out from the skeleton and wrapped around Wang Lin's finger. Wang Lin waved his finger and the gray gas flew out. He pointed at it and the gray gas turned into a seal that flew toward the old man. This spell is called the Celestial Slaughter Art. The old man's expression changed. He raised his right hand and grabbed the mark. He quickly spread out his divine sense and carefully examined it. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. In the end, his eyes almost lit up. With his cultivation level, he was able to see through the power of the Celestial Slaughter Art at a glance. This seal obviously had a certain level of protection, and the white gas had an offensive ability. Although it wasn't powerful, it could be used many times to accumulate power. This seal is formed by the Celestial Slaughter Art. It relies on slaughter to obtain vitality and circulates the vitality around your body to form seals. The more seals there are, the stronger the defense. The senior that taught me this spell said that if I have billions of seals protecting my body, then even if a cultivation planet collapses, I'll be fine. Wang Lin wasn't lying. What he said was the exact words of the gray-robed Tian Yunzi. For the first time, the old man revealed a hint of hesitation. It was obvious that the Celestial Slaughter Art had truly tempted him. With his experience, he could naturally see that the Celestial Slaughter Art was extremely powerful and not something an ordinary cultivator could obtain. It was obvious that Wang Lin's claim that it was passed down to a Nirvana Shatterer cultivator had some credibility. However, his third eye spell was an inheritance of his family, so he couldn't casually teach it to outsiders. The origin of this spell was unknown, and it seemed to have been obtained by an ancestor a long time ago. Normally, in the Alliance star system, his family wouldn't be able to obtain this spell alone. However, in the Luo Tian star system, where families were like sects, every family would have a spell that was passed down. As a result, it wouldn't be easy for others to steal it. More importantly, he was the first person to successfully cultivate this divine ability ever since his family obtained it. Wang Lin waited for a moment and saw that the old man was still hesitating. He waved his sleeves, turned around, and stepped onto the Thunder Beast. He said, "Forget it. Since fellow cultivator isn't willing, then forget it." With that, the Thunder Beast charged into the distance, and the Celestial Guard followed. The life seal in the old man's hand collapsed and dissipated into gray gas. Its disappearance set off a wave in the old man's heart. It was as if the spell that should have been his had been stolen by someone else. Seeing Wang Lin's figure get further and further away, the old man's expression changed. He clenched his teeth and shouted, "Fellow cultivators, stop. I'll trade the Celestial Slaughter Art, along with the Finger of Death and Demonic Finger." Wang Lin stopped. The Thunder Beast was intelligent, so it turned around and stopped 100 feet from the old man. It spat out lightning from its nose, and its eyes were filled with disdain. The old man clenched his teeth and said, "I'll trade. The old man will trade with you. But you have to promise that this spell can't be taught to others." Wang Lin nodded and no longer wasted any time. He slapped his bag of holding and took out 3 pieces of jade. After recording the 3 spells, he wasn't afraid of the old man going back on his word and threw them out. After the old man caught them, he looked at them. Although his expression was normal, he admired Wang Lin's actions. He also took out a piece of jade and recorded the spell of the third eye before throwing it at Wang Lin. However, he had made a few mistakes. If he continued to cultivate according to this, even if he succeeded, there would be a lot of hidden dangers. Wang Lin took it and carefully looked at it. His heart secretly spun, and he didn't hesitate to use his third eye to look at it again. He was able to see through it at a glance, but he didn't point it out and only nodded. Looking at the old man, Wang Lin felt a bit apologetic. After all, he had gotten a great deal in this trade. After hesitating for a bit, he clasped his hands and said, "Fellow cultivator, it's best not to have more than 100,000 strands of slaughter energy, or else there will be danger. Goodbye." After he finished speaking, he quickly left without looking back. His back was filled with a rare sense of urgency. The old man was startled, and his expression changed slightly. He looked at the jade in his hand and pondered a bit before returning to the cultivation planet with his clan members. He immediately went into closed-door cultivation. He had to cultivate as quickly as possible so he could make it to the Thunder Celestial Realm in 1 month. Wang Lin sat on the back of the Thunder Beast with a strange expression on his face. He shook his head and muttered to himself, "Using these 3 problematic spells to exchange for a spell that contains a hint of the 3rd step is a bit too much. A bit too much." Wang Lin looked at the jade in his hand and smiled. The old man only treated this spell as ordinary, and even if he cared about it, it was limited. However, in Wang Lin's eyes, this spell was extremely powerful. It contained a hint of returning to the origin. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin had seen the 3rd step, he wouldn't have been able to see the potential of this spell. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and carefully looked at the jade. Wang Lin didn't care about the mistakes the old man had made. As long as he had enough time, he would be able to correct them. This was much easier than correcting the 3 spells. The Thunder Beast was very fast as it flew through the stars. Its target was Wang Lin's cultivation planet, Qingling. The cultivators of planet Qingling were just rejoicing that the eccentric senior who occupied this place with a special hobby had finally left. However, after a few months, they immediately became depressed again. This was because the senior with a special hobby had returned. The area within 5,000 kilometers of the Hengyun Peak became a restricted area once more, and no one dared to take half a step inside. After returning to his cultivation planet, Wang Lin immediately took the time to study and correct the 3rd eye spell. He slowly tried to master it. More than half a month passed by very quickly. On this day, the sky was sunny and the sun was clear. There were no clouds in the sky, and there was a gentle breeze blowing under the blue sky. When it landed on the body, it also brought a trace of warmth. Wang Lin stood at the top of the Hengyun Peak with the thunder furnace in his hand. This furnace was only the size of his palm and contained thunder that gave off crisp sounds as it moved. There was a faint gap between Wang Lin's eyebrows that gave off a sliver of red light. At this moment, he looked very strange. No one would believe that he was a righteous cultivator. No matter how you looked at it, there was a trace of evil in him. All of this was because of the gap between his eyebrows. It didn't take long for thunderclouds to appear in the blue sky. The appearance of these clouds was extremely sudden, and there had been no warning whatsoever. Just a moment ago, the sky had been blue, but in the next instant, it had darkened. Bursts of thunder roared through the clouds. At the same time, the thunder furnace in Wang Lin's hand seemed to glow, and the thunder inside became even stronger. Just at this moment, a thick bolt of thunder descended from the clouds toward Wang Lin. As Wang Lin stared at the thunder, his eyes revealed a strange light. He knew that as long as the thunder landed on the thunder furnace, he would be pulled into the void and enter the thunder celestial realm. However, at this moment, he put away the thunder furnace. "This is celestial thunder," Wang Lin muttered to himself, and the strange light in his eyes became even stronger. His next move was unprecedented in the countless times the Thunder Celestial Realm had opened. The Thunder Celestial Realm chapter will open immediately, asking for monthly votes to help you write the first large instance in the Luo Tian star system. Asking for monthly votes. Chapter 735. When the Thunder Celestial Realm opens, it will produce Celestial Realm Thunder. This Celestial Realm Thunder is used to summon anyone who has a Thunder Furnace. As for why this was the case, no one knew. It was as if it had always been like this. There were some powerful cultivators that wanted to know the secret behind this, but no matter how much they investigated, they couldn't find an answer. Over time, no one tried to find the cause and effect. They only knew that whoever had a thunder furnace could enter the thunder celestial realm. At this moment, on planet Qingling, the moment Wang Lin put away the thunder furnace, the thunder that was filled with celestial spiritual energy arrived. Before the thunder even arrived, there was already a thunderous rumble. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light, and his origin soul activated like crazy. Bursts of thunder moved through his body and even spread to the outside of his body. At this moment, he was like someone who could control thunder. The moment the thunder descended, Wang Lin charged out like a meteor toward the thunder. He opened his mouth and swallowed without hesitation. It was as if he could swallow mountains and rivers. With one swallow, the sky changed colors, and it was as if the entire world had darkened. The thunder that lit up everything was swallowed by Wang Lin. A series of thunderous rumbles quickly turned into muffled roars that came from Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's body trembled. At the moment he swallowed the celestial thunder, he felt like he had been punched by an ancient god. His body was like a kite with a broken string. Thunderous rumbles came from his body as he smashed into the ground. The moment his body landed on the ground, violent lightning bolts shot out from his body and spread in all directions. In an instant, a lightning storm formed in a circular shape within a radius of 10 miles. There was only a deep pit on the ground. Wang Lin's body was smashed into the ground by the thunder celestial realm. His body was covered in thunder and his eyes were closed. His origin soul absorbed the celestial thunder like crazy. At the same time, the thunder origin spell was quickly used by Wang Lin to absorb origin energy from the celestial thunder. This scene was like the thunder lake in the asteroid field. Thunderous rumbles echoed from the thunder clouds in the sky. It was as if the majesty of the celestial realm couldn't be challenged. After the celestial thunder descended, the clouds in the sky showed signs of dissipating. At this moment, inside the pit, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with thunder, and there was even a flash of excitement. He licked his lips. The origin energy inside this celestial thunder was extremely dense. It was several times denser than the thunder Wang Lin absorbed from the Thunder Lake. The origin energy inside his origin soul had already reached saturation, but after his cultivation reached the peak of the late stage of Ascendant, there was a bit more left. His body quickly moved, and he charged out from the ground. At the same time, he slapped his bag of holding, and the thunder furnace appeared in his hand once more. The moment the thunder furnace appeared, the thunder clouds that were about to dissipate stopped and condensed once more. Shortly after, another bolt of celestial thunder descended. Wang Lin laughed and put away the thunder furnace once more. Although that bolt of celestial thunder made his body feel numb, and his origin soul showed signs of barely being able to withstand it, the amount of origin energy inside the celestial thunder was unimaginable. If any cultivator saw Wang Lin's actions, they would be dumbfounded. This kind of action could only be described as crazy. Devouring celestial thunder. The second bolt of celestial thunder descended. Wang Lin floated in the air, and his origin soul activated. Thunder suddenly descended, and Wang Lin didn't hesitate to rush out and devour it. A thunderous rumble echoed across planet Qingling, and even the earth seemed to tremble. Wang Lin's body smashed into the ground once more. This time, the moment he landed, he immediately sat down in the lotus position, and his body trembled violently. There wasn't enough time for Wang Lin to absorb. After the two bolts of thunder descended, the thunder clouds seemed to be unable to bear it and quickly dissipated. The speed at which they dissipated was several times faster than before. Wang Lin immediately released a green light from the top of his head. The moment the green light appeared, it turned into a green mist, and Wang Lin's origin soul flew out from the mist. The moment his origin soul appeared, the thunder furnace flew out from Wang Lin's bag of holding. It was absorbed by his origin soul and charged into the sky. The rapidly dissipating thunder clouds let out a few unwilling roars and no longer dissipated. Instead, they condensed once more. However, this time, it was as if they were angry. Almost all of the thunder clouds gathered together to form a bolt of celestial thunder that was much stronger than the previous two bolts of celestial thunder. That bolt of lightning descended from the sky with a thunderous roar that seemed to shatter the heavens and the earth. The instant it descended, all the thunder clouds in the sky were sucked into it like a funnel. From a distance, this wasn't a bolt of thunder at all. It was clearly a giant vortex formed by thunder clouds. At the end of the vortex was the third powerful bolt of celestial thunder. Thunderous rumbles echoed. At this moment, all of the cultivators on planet Qingling didn't dare to spread out their divine sense. All of the mortals, even the bullies in the streets, and the people who didn't believe in celestials, were like devout believers. They knelt in their homes and prayed for the protection of the celestial spirit. Wang Lin's origin soul floated in the air and looked at the descending bolt of thunder. His eyes widened, and he bitterly smiled. It seems a bit too big, seeing the bolt of thunder descend. Wang Lin's origin soul trembled and began to change. In the end, it looked a bit similar to the ancient thunder dragon. Wang Lin's origin soul let out a roar at the descending thunder. However, he didn't devour all of it, only half of it. Then he immediately retreated. The rumbling of the thunder continued to chase after him, as if it was angry. His origin soul moved extremely fast and returned to the ground. He threw out the thunder furnace, and his origin soul entered his body. At the same time, Wang Lin's eyes opened and his right hand grabbed the thunder furnace. The lightning bolt that was chasing after him seemed to let out a roar filled with unwillingness as it landed on the lightning cauldron. Even the huge vortex behind it also landed on the lightning cauldron at this moment. The lightning inside the thunder furnace flashed like crazy. It was so intense that even Wang Lin, who was holding the furnace, felt his right hand go numb. Even when he was holding the thunder furnace, he didn't feel this numb. This showed how terrifying the thunder inside the furnace was. At this moment, the lightning vortex above the lightning cauldron covered the entire sky. It was spinning rapidly as it sucked in the immortal lightning. From afar, it looked as if the entire sky was going to be sucked in by the cauldron. If there were people who didn't understand, they would definitely think that this cauldron was a top-quality magic treasure in the world because it could actually absorb the heavens. In almost an instant, the incomparably large vortex entered the thunder furnace at a crazy speed. At the moment the vortex disappeared from planet Qingling, crackling sounds came from the thunder furnace and cracks appeared on it. This was the first time a crack had appeared on the thunder furnace since the thunder celestial realm opened. This kind of phenomenon had never happened in a very long time. The number of thunder furnaces had always been fixed. They wouldn't collapse or be lost. Every time the thunder celestial realm closed, these thunder furnaces would come from the void and return to the void. The next time they appeared, the number would be the same. However, it seemed like all of this was about to change. Wang Lin bitterly smiled. He felt like he had really gone too far. If the thunder furnace collapsed, he didn't know if he would be affected and wouldn't be able to enter the celestial realm. It shouldn't collapse. This thunder furnace is, after all, something from the thunder celestial realm. Just at this moment, under Wang Lin's dumbfounded gaze, more and more cracks appeared on the thunder furnace after it merged with the thunder clouds. In the end, it collapsed. A thunderous rumble echoed across the world and formed a thunderstorm that exploded on planet Qingling. The thunder furnace collapsed and turned into countless fragments. These fragments were connected by thunder. Wang Lin let out a sigh of relief. As long as the fragments were still there was still room to make up for it. However, the moment they scattered, they collapsed once more. This time, it was the fragments that collapsed. In an instant, the fragments turned to dust. Since the thunder celestial realm opened, this was the first thunder furnace to collapse. From this day onward, no matter how many times the thunder celestial realm opened, one thunder furnace would disappear forever and a spot to enter would be lost forever. In countless years, this was the first time something like this had happened. No one knew what would happen next. The thunder furnace was originally indestructible. Even second-step cultivators would find it difficult to destroy it. Even if someone could do it, they wouldn't do it. Not only would it not benefit the thunder celestial realm, but it would also have a negative impact on the thunder celestial realm. Wang Lin's bitter smile became even stronger. The moment the thunder furnace collapsed and dissipated, the thunder inside also erupted. An unimaginable amount of thunder surged out and surrounded Wang Lin's body. Along with the fragments of the thunder furnace, they flew into the sky at an extremely fast speed. This speed was too fast. It was as if it was going to tear his body apart. When others held the thunder furnace and were pulled through the void to enter the thunder celestial realm, their speed was relatively slow. However, Wang Lin's speed was several times faster because the thunder furnace had absorbed the entire thundercloud. Even the thunder furnace couldn't withstand the thunder, so his speed was naturally several times faster than others. In almost an instant, this wild thunder that could only be described as crazy shattered the void and disappeared with Wang Lin. This speed was already indescribable. It was as if time had passed in an instant. After breaking through the void, Wang Lin couldn't even see anything in this space that was clearly different from space itself. He moved by in a flash. On the path to the Thunder Celestial Realm, there were many cultivators from the Luo Tian star system. They came from all over the Luo Tian star system, and they didn't need to fly. Their bodies would automatically be pulled to the Thunder Celestial Realm to wait for the gate to open. Today is my daughter's birthday, and she has already arranged everything. In the afternoon, she asked me to buy her a big cake at kindergarten and then give it to the children. She also asked me to buy 20 Wang Zai milk and 20 bags of Wang Zai QQ candy to give to each of the children. Speaking of which, when I was young, I never thought of this kind of bribery. After kindergarten, she has to go to the river to throw stones, then go to our newly opened cafeteria, then go to the Great Fortune supermarket, then go to the New Mart supermarket, and finally go back to the river to throw stones again. All the time from afternoon to night has been arranged by my daughter. I can only wake up at 5 in the morning to write. Monthly votes are going to explode. Crisis, crisis. Monthly votes, monthly votes. Chapter 736. These cultivators were being pulled by the thunder. Unless they were from the same cultivation planet, they were too far away to see each other. As far as he could see, apart from the lightning radiating from his body, everything else was black and monotonous. However, right at this moment, a bolt of lightning that resembled an aurora suddenly whistled through the air like a meteor. This thunder meteor was too fast. It had already reached an unimaginable level. In the blink of an eye, it passed by several cultivators. The impact it brought with it actually caused the lightning on their bodies to flicker as if it was about to be extinguished. These cultivators all came from the same cultivation planet, and their expressions changed greatly. However, when they looked over, they could only see a flash of light in the distance, and then it disappeared without a trace. All that was left was the shock and confusion in the eyes of a few cultivators. One of the cultivators muttered, "What is that?" Wang Lin was inside this meteor-like bolt of thunder. The powerful speed made it so he couldn't even open his eyes. It was as if something was moving inside his body, and countless bumps appeared on his body. He didn't even dare to spread out his divine sense. At this speed, the moment his divine sense spread out, it would reach its limit due to his body's speed. If he tried to force it, it would immediately hurt his origin soul. His speed was too fast. This meteor-like bolt of thunder rampaged through the space, leading to the Thunder Celestial Realm, as if it was crazy. Some of the cultivators that came here for the first time were originally excited as they were slowly being pulled toward the Celestial Realm. But then they saw this terrifying meteor. They were all in a daze, as if they didn't know where they were. Even those scheming people who didn't show their emotions were dumbfounded. There were also some cultivators that hadn't entered the Thunder Celestial Realm for the first time. However, when they saw the meteor flash by them, they were also startled and filled with doubt. In this kind of environment, very few people dared to spread out their divine sense. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to lock onto the meteor that was too fast. What exactly was inside the meteor? This was the first question that most cultivators had before they entered the Thunder Celestial Realm. At the end of this void was the door to the Thunder Celestial Realm. However, the door to the Thunder Celestial Realm was a bolt of thunder. This bolt of thunder was too big, and although there was only one bolt, it was impossible to see the end. The color of the lightning was dark red. It had appeared from nothingness, and its other end had also fused with nothingness. It was like a flowing river, but there was no longer any life on it. It was as if a person's life had come to an end. In the Luo Tian star system, there were many legends about the Thunder Celestial Realm. One of them was the most accepted. It said that the Thunder Celestial Realm originally didn't have a door. It was completely filled with thunder, so there was no need for a door. As for this dark red thunderbolt, it was formed by the souls of the entire celestial realm when the thunder celestial realm collapsed. This was how it became the door in the future. At this moment, there were already several people sitting in the lotus position under the dark red thunder. They were silently waiting for the thunder celestial realm to open. Shingong, who was among them. Aside from the messengers of the thunder celestial temple, there were also some extremely rare solo cultivators in the Luo Tian star system. In a place like the Luo Tian star system, there weren't many solo cultivators. Without extraordinary cultivation, it was almost impossible to survive. Almost every solo cultivator was an extremely powerful existence. The people under the door to the thunder celestial realm rarely talked to each other. They sat there with their eyes closed as if they didn't want others to disturb them. Occasionally, there would be other cultivators that were attracted by the thunder from afar. The cultivators that could arrive first were usually second-step cultivators. If they knew each other, they would greet each other, sit down, or choose a spot by themselves. There was also a middle-aged cultivator sitting next to Shingong Hu. He was wearing a blue robe, and his face was pale without a trace of blood. However, his eyes were cold and gloomy. I heard that the arrogant Shingong Hu actually has a lord. I originally didn't believe it, but seeing that Brother Shingong's Dao soul is incomplete, it seems that the message was true. What a pity, what a pity. The middle-aged cultivator's tone was strange as he slowly said. Shingong Hu's expression was neutral as he coldly looked at the middle-aged cultivator and calmly said, "How can a sparrow know the ambition of an eagle? A lowly skin cannot understand the heart of a great swan. Tang Yinfeng, you're not me." The man named Tang's eyes became cold, and he smiled gloomily. "I really want to see what kind of ambition that eagle has." Shingong Hu no longer spoke and remained silent. During these past 20 years, he had been under a lot of pressure. This pressure came from his family, from the Thunder Celestial Temple. All of this was because he had attached himself to Wang Lin. His family had criticized him for making such a rash decision. Although Shangong, who was a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple, he still couldn't resist the elders of his family. As for the Thunder Celestial Temple, they didn't approve of a messenger that had attached himself to someone else. Although they didn't say anything on the surface, Shingong Hu could feel that the Thunder Celestial Temple was alienating him. For example, with his talent, he shouldn't have appeared here. He should have entered the Thunder Celestial Realm with most of the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Although he wasn't the only messenger here, in terms of status and identity, those people couldn't compare to him at all. Thinking about this, not only did Shingong Hu not feel any regret, but pride appeared in his heart. He didn't think he was wrong. In fact, he felt like this was the most correct decision he had made in his life. What he said to Tang Yinfeng was in fact what he said to the elders of his family. Even the head elder of the family is still stuck at the Nirvana cleanser stage and can't advance an inch. As for the legendary third step, it is even more illusory. What qualifications do they have to guide my life? Shingong Hu's eyes shine brightly. Tang Yinfeng sneered. Shingong Hu was the first person in his generation to become a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. But because he made a mistake, he ended up like this. Just at this moment, a ray of bright light suddenly appeared in the distance. In an instant, a thunderous rumble spread out like a storm. In an instant, all the cultivators here opened their eyes and looked over. Tang Yinfeng was no exception. The moment they looked over, the light suddenly enlarged and closed in. The violent rumble of thunder became even louder. This light was like a meteor that closed in at an unimaginable speed. It was too fast, and it closed in an instant. There is no lack of powerful cultivators here, especially those that were solo cultivators. At this moment, they spread out their divine senses in an attempt to lock onto the meteor like thunder. They wanted to see what was inside. However, due to its crazy speed, before they could lock onto it, the meteor thunder furnace closed in. It brought with it a powerful impact that caused everyone's gaze to become even more focused. As it charged, the meteor-like thunder didn't slow down at all. Instead, it moved even faster and charged past everyone toward the gate to the Thunder Celestial Realm. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the meteor-like thunderbolt suddenly collided with the enormous dark red lightning. A muffled sound of thunder reverberated in the air, and the meteor-like thunderbolt disappeared into the dark red lightning under everyone's incredulous gazes. It went in. One of the cultivators was completely stunned. He was not the only one. Almost everyone in the area immediately stood up and stared at the lightning gate. They had never heard of anyone being able to enter the Thunder Celestial Realm before it opened. This was beyond their imagination. Tang Yin Feng stared dumbfoundedly at the Thunder Celestial Realm gate and muttered to himself, "What is this? How can I enter before it opens? Could it be that I can enter before it opens?" He frowned. He wasn't the only one who had this thought, but no one tried it. Only one person moved, and an avatar walked out from behind him. With a point of his finger, the avatar turned into a ray of light and charged at the dark red bolt of lightning. The surrounding people's gazes immediately followed, only to see that as soon as that person's clone touched the dark red lightning, it immediately trembled and rapidly collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, a bolt of dark red thunder separated from the avatar and charged at the cultivator that sent out the avatar to test the Thunder Celestial Realm. This cultivator's expression changed greatly. His cultivation level was at the illusory stage, but facing the lightning, his scalp went numb and he was scared out of his wits. He quickly turned around and ran, but the lightning chased after him. It charged into his body, circled around once, and then flew back. The cultivator's body trembled. His origin soul, bag of holding, and everything about him collapsed. Silence. All the surrounding cultivators became silent. No one noticed that Shangong, whose eyes were filled with shock and unimaginable excitement. Due to his Tao soul, he felt a trace of the aura of a high lord from the meteor-like Thunder Celestial Realm. Shangonghu was not wrong. Senior is indeed an expert to be able to attract thunder to such a degree and to be able to directly enter the Thunder Celestial Realm before it opens. This kind of cultivation is really too incredible. In the Thunder Celestial Realm that hadn't opened yet, on a collapsed fragment, there was a completely black mountain covered in thunder. At this moment, there was a person standing on top of it. This person was an old man with white hair that fluttered in the wind. His hands were behind his back, and his brows were furrowed as if he was deep in thought. However, he was immediately startled. He turned his head to look into the distance and softly exclaimed, "Interesting." The old man revealed a look of interest. A gust of wind blew by, and his body turned into countless specks of light and disappeared from the Thunder Mountain. If Wang Lin was here, he would immediately recognize that when the old man disappeared, there was a hint of an aura of returning to the origin. After spending the afternoon with her daughter, she was very happy today. During this time, she finally finished the remaining 1,000 words. She had to quickly find an internet cafe to hand in the manuscript. In a bit, she still had to go throw stones with her. Thank you everyone for your support. Also, please give me a monthly vote. If I update too quickly, I won't be able to consider the quality. It's better to wait until I'm in a better state before I update again. I hope everyone won't refuse to give me a monthly vote just because I can't hear anything. To be honest, the pressure is very great. A few days ago, I felt like I didn't know what to write. Chapter 737. The moment the meteor that lured Wang Lin into the Thunder Celestial Realm entered the dark red Thunder Celestial Realm, the power of thunder inside the meteor increased exponentially and reached an even more terrifying height. It entered Wang Lin's body like a mad dragon. In just one breath, it caused Wang Lin's body to go numb and even his origin soul to be locked by the thunder. This happened so fast that Wang Lin didn't even have time to think. In the blink of an eye, his body trembled as if someone had used the stop spell on him. Under the impact of the meteor, he entered the Thunder Celestial Realm. There was no time to check the surroundings at all. The meteor that surrounded Wang Lin was like a meteor falling from the sky. It created a thunderous rumble as it landed on one of the broken continents of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The meteor broke through the sky and smashed into the earth, setting off a storm that spread like crazy. At this moment, the fragment was covered in dust, making it impossible to see more than 30 feet away. The entire earth trembled violently, as if an earth dragon was turning over. After a long time, the dust storm dissipated and the earth slowly calmed down. Only the concave hole on the eastern side of the continent proved that everything that had just happened was real. Strands of green smoke came out of the hole and dissipated when the wind blew by. There was thunder moving around the edge of the hole, and there was even some scorched earth. This hole was very deep, and it was unknown how deep it was. However, at the deepest part, Wang Lin was lying there, bleeding from his orifices. There were many injuries all over his body, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Although the Thunder Celestial Realm was more stable than the Rain Celestial Realm, it was still on the verge of collapse. The only difference was between 50 steps and 100 steps. After experiencing the impact of the thunder meteor, the fragment became even more unstable. Not long after the sinkhole Wang Lin was informed, it immediately collapsed. Muffled rumbling sounds echoed and dust flew into the air. When the dust settled, the ground was in ruins. The sinkhole had been completely buried. A white-haired old man seemed to appear out of thin air and arrived at the bottom of the pit. He looked down and smiled. This old man has lived for a long time, but this is the first time I've seen someone so greedy to use this method to enter the Thunder Celestial Realm ahead of time. The old man's eyes narrowed. He took a closer look and murmured, "This little guy's origin soul contains the power of lightning. Even his body is made of lightning. What nonsense! Is he a human or a spirit? At this rate, sooner or later he will become a Thunder Soul. However, the place where he landed is quite interesting. Forget it. It's fate that the old man saw it." The old man's eyes revealed a look of interest. He raised his right hand and casually pressed down. A ray of light flashed across the ground, and the old man's body disappeared. There weren't many people who were fated with him in his life, but all of them ended up helpless. Time slowly passed. Deep underground, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. Intense pain came from all over his body. Even his origin soul wasn't functioning well. Wang Lin bitterly smiled as he looked around. This was a collapsed stone room, and there was still some dirt falling from above. After looking around a bit, Wang Lin struggled to sit up. His hands formed a seal, and he closed his eyes to cultivate. He slowly cycled his origin soul and found that there was a trace of thunder force that was incompatible with his body. This was the reason why his origin soul wasn't functioning well. The surroundings were completely silent. There was no sound at all. Wang Lin was completely immersed in his cultivation. At this moment, the shadow behind him flickered and the celestial guard walked out. It sat down opposite of Wang Lin and guarded him with vigilance. 7 days passed by in a flash. Wang Lin opened his eyes and let out a mouthful of foul air. There was a trace of thunder force in this air. I can't take such a risk. Fortunately, there isn't much thunder force in my body that affects my origin soul. Otherwise, I fear I won't be able to expel it in a short period of time. After expelling the trace of thunder force, Wang Lin's injuries improved and his origin soul recovered. Although his body was slightly damaged, it didn't affect his cultivation. Wang Lin stood up and looked at the dirt above his head. He took a step forward and charged toward the dirt. Since I've come to the Thunder Celestial Realm, I must take a good look and see how it is different from the Rain Celestial Realm. Wang Lin's body turned into a ray of light, but the moment he touched the dirt, there was a flash of light. It was as if Wang Lin had hit an iron plate. There was a thunderous rumble, and his body was bounced back. After landing on the ground, Wang Lin retreated a few steps, and his eyes were filled with terror. This dirt contains origin energy. Wang Lin took a deep breath. His eyes were like lightning as he carefully looked at the dirt. His expression immediately became gloomy. This isn't natural origin energy, but a spell. Someone doesn't want me to go out. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. When he fell from the meteor thunder, although he was injured, he more or less noticed it. Although the ground was much harder than the outside world, it wouldn't stop spells from penetrating it. However, there was a change in the dirt, which shocked Wang Lin. Is it because someone is using a spell, or Is it because the thunder is too intense, causing this change? Wang Lin pondered a bit. With a thought, the celestial guard immediately flew up and changed directions. It tried many places in the secret chamber. In the end, aside from the front, everywhere else was impassable. Wang Lin's expression became even more gloomy. He was almost certain that all of this was caused by someone. It was obvious that someone had noticed him and sealed this place, leaving only one path for him. This person was clearly telling him that he could only move forward. Wang Lin silently pondered. He had spent several days healing, and he didn't know if the Thunder Celestial Realm had officially opened or not, so he couldn't determine the identity of the person who used the spell. However, to be able to seal a place in the Celestial Realm, this person's cultivation is not simple. However, why did he want me to go forward? With this person's methods, he shouldn't have done this. If he was hostile to me, he could have directly attacked me. As Wang Lin pondered, his eyes lit up and he looked at the hole the Celestial Guard punched out when it tried to find a way out. Forget it. Staying here is useless. I'll go see what is so strange about this place. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He slapped his bag of holding and a shiny, golden celestial brush appeared in his hand. Holding the brush, the demonic crack between Wang Lin's eyebrows gave off a red light, making him look evil. His right hand formed a seal, and a strand of celestial spiritual energy appeared. The celestial spiritual energy turned into a strange wind that blew away the dirt before him, revealing a passage. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and found that there were countless passages leading to an unknown place. His divine sense split into countless parts, but he still couldn't reach the end. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin charged forward. As he moved, his divine sense was spread out to find an exit. He tried to use spells to rush out from different locations, but they were all sealed by spells, so he couldn't rush out. As he moved, his eyes narrowed. His divine sense found an exit at a fork in the road ahead. Wang Lin suddenly sped up and charged toward the exit. However, he was a bit confused in his heart because finding the exit seemed a bit too easy. Could it be that this place isn't a spell created by someone, but a mutation caused by thunder? Wang Lin pondered and slowed down a bit. Just at this moment, there was a flash of light from the exit his divine sense had locked onto. The moment the light disappeared, the exit also disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin's body trembled, and his expression became even more gloomy. After pondering a bit, he let out a cold snort and walked forward. Shortly after, he arrived at the exit and carefully looked at it for a long time. He didn't say anything and instead turned around and walked toward another fork in the road. His divine sense was still spread out, and he carefully observed all the intersecting passages. Half an hour later, his divine sense found another exit. Outside the exit was the gray sky and bursts of thunder. It was clear that this exit led to the surface. Wang Lin didn't hesitate to rush toward the exit. He was already moving extremely fast, but he didn't care that he couldn't teleport here. After a few teleportations, he arrived at the exit. When he was 100 feet from the exit, he rushed forward. However, just at this moment, there was a flash of white light, and the exit disappeared. Wang Lin missed. He clenched his fists, and his expression was extremely gloomy. He raised his head, and his gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the earth. He let out a few deep breaths and left. This place must have been created by a spell. Wang Lin gloomily moved through the endless passage. At this moment, he let go of his anxious mentality. It was obvious that someone was controlling these exits so that he could see them but not leave. If he became anxious and messed up his mind, it would be even more difficult for him to leave. At this moment, somewhere in the Thunder Celestial Realm, the white-haired old man smiled and muttered to himself. It's been a long time since I've met a junior fated with the old man. Forget it. If you can leave within 7 days, it means you are fated with the old man. I really hope this little fellow can leave within 7 days. This will be interesting. There are many places in the Thunder Celestial Realm that are very suitable for the fated people of the old man. 3 days of time passed in a flash. Wang Lin moved like lightning through the underground passage, and his divine sense spread out. Almost every half an hour, he would find an exit. However, he didn't go through it at all and continued his own journey. It took him 3 days of time to walk through all the passages here. As a result, a complete map appeared in his mind. He also found a way to leave this place. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.